Chapter 923. Ha. 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 In an empty alley, Lily, who was carrying a huge backpack, panted heavily as she ran forward desperately. Tears were still flowing from the corners of her eyes, but her heart was screaming madly. Lily is such a useless person anyway. She's even afraid of a glass of wine. She's useless at all. Lily hated adventurers very much. However, compared to adventurers, Lily actually hated herself more. Noah did not know that Lily did not join Sumo's clan voluntarily, but was born as a member of Sumo's clan. This was an unwritten rule that happened in almost every clan. Because it was usually not suitable for factions to be too close to each other, under normal circumstances, it was impossible for two people from different clans to get married. In the same clan, if two people who loved each other married and gave birth to a child, then the child would become a member of their parents' clan from the moment of birth. Lily was such an existence. Lily's parents were both members of Sumo's clan. In other words, Lily was obligated to become a member of Sumo's clan from the moment of her birth. From then on, Lily was destined to be an unfortunate person. This was because Lily's parents, as the grassroots members of Sumo's clan, were also captured by the magic of the divine wine and became slaves to money. Under such circumstances, in addition to their own crazy pursuit of money, Lily's parents had been almost rude to the young Lily to earn money, and had never fulfilled their responsibilities as parents. Then, in order to pursue money, one day, Lily's parents got into the underground tower that they could not explore with their own strength and were killed by monsters. As a result, Lily was left alone. At the same time, the death of her parents did not relieve Lily. There was no other reason. Even Lily herself unfortunately drank the divine wine when Sumo's clan planned to expand the faction and distributed the divine wine as bait, and became a captive of the divine wine. Like the other people in Sumo's clan, after Lily was captured by the divine wine, she crazily wanted to get money. However, the young Lily did not have much ability, nor did she have the talent that an adventurer should have. Thus, she was forced to become a support. As a result, Lily was despised and looked down upon by others. Whenever Lily acted as the support of an adventurer team, those adventurers who looked down on Lily would brazenly or openly take the spoils of war for themselves, leaving the weak Lily with no way to deal with them. Even if Lily did earn some money at times, the adventurers in the same clan would also have evil intentions towards the weak and lonely Lily in order to obtain the divine wine as a prize. Just like that, Lily would either have her spoils of war swallowed by her fellow adventurers who looked down on her when she was acting as a support for a small adventurer team, or she would be oppressed by the adventurers of the same clan. Over time, Lily, who couldn't make any money, naturally couldn't get the divine wine as a prize. As time passed, the magic power of the divine wine disappeared, and everything returned to normal. But at this point, even if she wanted to regret it, it was too late. The only choice left for Lily was to continue living as a support who was despised by others. Even if she would be bullied by other adventurers of the clan and forced to work for free. Even if she would be treated as a cash cow by some members of the same clan and be oppressed. Lily could only continue to live like this. Therefore, Lily hated adventurers the most. Lord Noah is the same. Lily couldn't help but shout out. That person is also an adventurer. An adventurer who only bullies Lily. Lily ran forward with all her might without any destination. She just wanted to get away from where Noah was. Only in this way could Lily erase the complicated feelings in her heart for Noah. In fact, growing up in such an environment, although it was hard, it also made Lily not become a fool. Instead, she was quite smart. In this case, how could Lily not see that Noah lowered himself to form a team with a professional support who didn't even have the talent of an adventurer? Not only that, but he also split the profits equally. That was just a way to help Lily in disguise. It was because she understood this that Lily didn't want to believe it. She didn't want to believe that in this world, there would be an adventurer who would help others unconditionally, and help a person who didn't hesitate to steal and rob. Of course, Noah had already said at the beginning that he only intended to give Lily a chance because Lily was a person with a story. If Lily didn't seize this opportunity, then Noah wouldn't continue to meddle in other people's business. It sounds so nice, but in the end, isn't it just sympathy for Lily? Lily ran forward and got angry. Lily doesn't need the adventurer's sympathy. Holding such negative emotions that were close to a dead end, Lily kept drilling into the depths of the empty alley. Just as Lily came to a corner, a foot stretched out from the side corner and blocked Lily's way. Lily, who didn't notice this, was directly tripped by that foot. She didn't even have time to react before the ground began to enlarge in front of her eyes. Bang! With a muffled sound, Lily could only tilt her body at the last moment, letting her shoulder hit the ground to lessen the impact on her body. However, it was inevitable that a burst of pain came from her shoulder, causing Lily to groan in pain. The sudden development made Lily a little unable to react. Until a voice full of anger sounded. "You actually ran away. Giving up a chance to make a lot of money and running away." Along with such an angry voice, a few figures walked out from the side alley. The leader was an orc. It was a very strong orc whose face was filled with ruthlessness. Seeing this orc, Lily's face turned pale. If Noah was here, he would definitely notice. These adventurers led by the orc were all people who were hiding in the bushes yesterday. And only Lily knew. These people were none other than a portion of the adventurers who had been squeezing him dry despite sharing the same clan as himself. "Hey, Eddie." With a tone full of anger, the orc squatted down and laughed angrily. "I should have told you the day before yesterday. Since you can earn so much money by following that tyrant, then you should just keep following him. Think of ways to follow him and stick to him. That way, you'll be able to make a fortune, right?" After saying that, the orc's expression became irritable. "But, Eddie, you didn't listen. Not only did you suddenly run away yesterday, but you also deliberately came so late today to make that tyrant give up on you. Now you ran away again, didn't you just give up such a good opportunity?" Not only the orc, but also the adventurers who followed the orc stared at Lily angrily. However, this anger could be regarded as malice. After all, even if Lily continued to follow Noah and made a lot of money, in the end, the money would fall into the hands of these guys. Because of this, these guys were furious that Lily ran away from Noah. The day before yesterday, Lily and Noah came back from the underground city. After getting a good harvest, these guys who had been oppressing Lily found Lily's opportunity. As a result, the dividends that Lily got from Noah were all snatched away by these guys, and these guys also forced Lily to follow Noah and continue to make a lot of money. The next day, Lily became so abnormal in front of Noah. Yesterday, Lily said that there was a gathering in the clan and that she needed to ask for leave, but it was a lie. Today, Lily deliberately came late so that Noah would give up on her. Anyway, in the end, she didn't get any harvest, so instead of letting all the money fall into the hands of these people with bad intentions, Lily would rather not. "It seems that if I don't teach you a lesson, you really think that we won't do anything to you." The orc seemed to be angry that Lily ran away from Noah. He raised a hand, clenched it into a fist, and fiercely swung it at Lily's face. Lily was shocked and could only raise her hand to block in front of her body. Bang! When such a muffled sound was heard, a figure flew out and hit a wall not far away. Chapter 9:24. Bang! When the muffled sound that made people's hearts shrink shook the entire empty alley, Lily's delicate body trembled violently, but the expected pain did not come for a long time, making Lily open her eyes in surprise. Immediately afterward, Lily saw it. The orc, who was supposed to be squatting in front of her and throwing a punch at her, flew backward and hit the wall heavily. And what replaced the orc was a back figure. A back figure that was not unfamiliar to Lily. Looking at the back figure, Lily made a sound in a daze. Noah. Sir. It was none other than Noah. Glancing at Lily, who was slumped on the ground behind him and looking at him with a dull expression, Noah raised his eyes and looked forward. Squeak. Being swept by Noah's gaze, several adventurers of Noah's clan, who were squeezing Lily together with the orc, cried out in sorrow and began to retreat, their faces full of horror. Even the orc, who was sent flying backward and hit the wall, turned pale after seeing Noah. Tyrant. Tyrant. Looking at the frightened and fearful expressions of the adventurers of Noah's clan, Noah's expression began to turn cold. It seems that it was wrong to let you leave yesterday because you did nothing. As early as these guys appeared and chased Lily into the alley, Noah discovered them. It was precisely because he discovered that these guys were chasing Lily that Noah's heart moved. He did not immediately catch up with Lily, but followed quietly behind Lily. As a result, the scene of these guys bullying Lily was completely seen by Noah. Seeing such a scene, and thinking about the situation of Sumo's clan, how could Noah not guess what had happened? At this moment, Noah also completely understood why Lily did not hesitate to steal and rob to raise money and withdraw from Sumo's clan. If all the people in Sumo's clan were crazy to such an extent that they did not hesitate to squeeze and bully their companions, then who would be willing to stay in this clan? At this moment, Noah really understood what kind of existence Sumo's clan was. It was a crazy group that was distorted because of the poor management of the Lord God. Therefore, at this moment, Noah's heart was not filled with disgust for these crazy adventurers who were captured by the divine wine in front of him, but disgust for Sumo, the god of wine. Loki had said that Sumo's godlike mind could not hold anything other than his interest in brewing wine. From the beginning, Sumo did not want to manage the clan. He only thought about how to brew wine and how to raise the cost of brewing. Loki even jokingly said, "That silly god probably doesn't even know what's going on with his own clan right now, right?" Such a sentence. This was enough to prove who caused the madness of Sumo's clan. As long as Sumo, as the Lord God of the clan, put his mind on his clan, then even if he distributed the divine wine to the members of the clan as a prize, it would not make Sumo's clan become such a group. Because a word from the Lord God, no matter which clan it was, carried the greatest weight. Sumo only needed to say, "If you want to drink the divine wine, you must make money by regular means," then even if the adventurers in Sumo's clan were captured by the divine wine, they would not become irrational beasts. He was not even willing to give such a sentence, and allowed the members of his clan to become like this, creating a distorted clan. Sumo's irresponsibility was the main culprit. When he thought of this, Noah's disgust for Sumo rose to the extreme, and the words he spat out became dangerous. "I'm in a very bad mood right now. If you don't want to die, then scram." Hearing this, every adventurer of Sumo's clan present, including the orc, had a sudden change in expression. A look of fear appeared in their eyes and faces. No one doubted Noah's words. This was because Noah's words carried a sense of danger that made people's hearts tremble. No one doubted that Noah had that ability. This was because the fact that Noah had single-handedly destroyed the entire family of Apollo was known to everyone in Eulalia. Ah! At that moment, the few adventurers of Noah's clan, who were still intact, screamed and fled in the opposite direction of Noah as if their lives depended on it. "Wait, wait for me." The beast man that had been sent flying by Noah's kick was rolling and crawling on the ground in a sorry state. He was on all fours, and in the blink of an eye, he was nowhere to be seen. The entire alleyway became silent. Noah turned around and cast his gaze on Lily, who was still sitting on the ground and looking at him blankly, and fell silent. After learning about Lily's situation, Noah realized that the girl in front of him might not be doing well than he had imagined. His self-righteous help to Lily not only did not make the girl's situation better, but also caused her to be targeted by those with bad intentions, which led to all of this. Just as Noah fell into silence because of his improper consideration, Lily lowered her head and squeezed out a sentence with difficulty. "Why?" Her voice was very soft. However, in the empty alley, it seemed so clear. Noah could only laugh bitterly. "You seem to be asking why all the time. Why did Lord Noah come?" Lily ignored Noah's bitter smile. Her pitifully thin shoulders trembled as she asked in a hoarse voice. "Undoubtedly, Lily doesn't need Lord Noah's help, really." Noah interrupted Lily directly. "You really don't need help." "Of course," Lily said mockingly, but her voice was worse than crying. "Lily has never needed anyone's help. Even without anyone's help, Lily can still survive. Lily has always survived in this way." "That's right. You relied on your own strength to survive." Noah's indifferent voice pierced Lily's heart. "That's why you have to live so hard." Lily opened her mouth as if she wanted to refute, but she couldn't even squeeze out a word. She could only sit there paralyzed. She raised her head and looked at the dusky sky. Her eyes were unusually empty. As expected, it's better for Lily to die. "Why? Do you really want to die?" Noah's gaze towards Lily became calm. "I won't stop you, if that's really your wish." After saying that, Noah raised his feet, brushed past Lily's side, and walked behind Lily. "But before that, tell me, where is the base camp of Sumo's clan?" "Base camp?" Lily's empty eyes were filled with some color. She turned her head and looked at Noah standing behind her. What do you want to do?" "Nothing." Noah looked into the distance, as if he could see something, and sneered. "I just want to see how stupid the god of fools that Loki talked about is." In a corner of Eulalie, there was a tower-like building. The building was somewhat similar to the structure of the Sword Mountain-like base camp of Loki's clan. However, in terms of scale, it was far less magnificent than Loki's clan, but it was still quite large. Under Lily's lead, Noah came to the gate of the building, raised his head, looked at the top of the building, and spoke without looking back. "Is this the place?" "Yes." Lily's voice sounded a little confused. "What exactly is Master Noah planning to do? Do you want to know?" Noah suddenly smiled. "Then open your eyes wide and take a good look." After saying that, Noah stretched out his hand toward the gate in front of him. Buzz! A dazzling magic array suddenly appeared in front of Noah's palm, and it lit up abruptly. In the next moment, a beam of magic power burst out from the gorgeous magic array and, under Lily's shocked gaze, landed on the gate ahead. Boom! Accompanied by an explosion, the gate of the tower-like building was directly blown up by the magical beam, setting off flames and rising into the sky. Chapter 9:25. What's wrong? What happened? Is it on fire? Quick! Let's go and see. The door of the building that was violently smashed by the magic beam did seem to be on fire, setting off layers of flames, causing a burst of panic and uncontrollable commotion inside the building. And the initiator, Noah, just retracted the gorgeous magic circle in front of his palm. His face reflected by the flames was like an ancient well without ripples. Lily was completely dumbfounded as she watched the scene unfold. After regaining her senses, she yelled at Noah with a shocked expression. "Sir Noah! What the hell are you doing? What's wrong?" Noah responded indifferently. "Don't you hate this clan tribe? Are you still distressed?" "Lily is not distressed. I'm surprised," Lily said loudly with a face full of anxiety. "Could it be that Lord Noah wants to start a war between the spawn tribes? Aren't you afraid of being banned by the guild? Because as long as one could join the clan tribe, no matter who it was, they could obtain the power called grace. In Eulalia, there were often many adventurers who didn't care about the law. These adventurers who were unscrupulous because they had power naturally brought uneasiness to the ordinary residents, which naturally couldn't be ignored. In order to let the ordinary citizens of Eulalia live in peace, the guild also formulated relevant laws and regulations. Once they were on the guild's list of dangerous people because of certain incidents, according to the punishment, these dangerous people were likely to be disqualified as adventurers and could no longer enter or leave the dungeon. Even the guild would contact the clan tribe and let the clan tribe Lord God kick these dangerous people out of the faction. If it was too much, there was a possibility that they would be imprisoned and punished. Although the clan tribe, with a certain amount of power, would certainly be able to more or less ignore a part of the punishment, for example, Apollo's clan tribe directly kidnapped Baal. Even if they would be warned by the guild, they would certainly be able to avoid punishment under the condition of paying a certain price. But that was only under the condition that the behavior was not too excessive. There would be room for maneuver. When it was time for the guild to take action, they would still use actions to warn others. Otherwise, the citizens of Eulalia would not be able to live here. Therefore, criminal acts would still be banned. Noah had directly destroyed the gate of a clan tribe base camp. This was not a big deal. Even if the people of Noah's clan tribe reported Noah to the guild, the most Noah could do was compensate for the loss of the gate. However, that was only if Noah really intended to destroy the door of someone else's house. Lily didn't think that Noah would make such a big move just to destroy a door. Perhaps, in the end, it really might evolve into a struggle between the clan tribe and the clan tribe. At that time, things would really get out of hand. Noah's expression didn't change at all as he spoke to Lily. You just need to watch quietly. While they were talking, the sound of panicked footsteps could be heard from the inside of the burning door. It didn't take long for a group of people to put out the fire and notice Noah and Lily standing outside the gate. They all rushed out and surrounded Noah and Lily. In the eyes of these people, Noah saw a kind of looming madness. It was a symbol of being captured by the divine wine. In such a group of people, the eyes of the man in the lead did not have that kind of symbol, and he looked quite sober. However, in the eyes of this person, Noah saw a stronger evil aura. Seeing the person in the lead, Lily could not help but whisper. Sanis Rustra. Noah had also heard this name from Loki. Sanis Rustra, the leader of Sumo's clan tribe. His level was only LV2, but he was the person with the most authority in the entire clan tribe. That was because Sumo, as the Lord God, did not care about the affairs of the clan tribe and only focused on brewing wine. He left all the affairs of the entire clan tribe to Sanis. In other words, the person in front of him was the leader of the crazy group called Sumo's clan tribe. According to Loki, as the leader, Sanis not only did not correct the distorted form inside the clan tribe, but also indulged and even promoted it. If Sumo's irresponsibility was the primary reason for the distortion of the entire Sumo's clan tribe, then Sanis' indulgence and promotion accelerated the distortion of the Sumo's clan tribe. The reason why this clan tribe appeared was definitely due to Sanis' contribution. Ed. On the other side, Sanis also noticed Lily's existence and raised his eyebrows. When he saw Noah, his pupils shrank again. Is it that tyrant? Why is he here? With such doubts in his heart, Sanis did not hesitate. He took a step forward and shouted at Noah from a distance. Are you the ones who destroyed the gate of our clan tribe? In one sentence, he cast aside Lily, who was also a member of the clan tribe, and directly put her in the same position as Noah. This approach made Lily's disheartened heart toward Sumo's clan tribe once again surge with a sense of disgust. Noah glanced around at everyone, and then looked at Sanis. I want to see Sumo. His unceremonious words made the faces of the people around him stiffen. Only Sanis glanced at Noah first, then at Lily, and grinned. I'm sorry, God Sumo never sees outsiders. Even if you want to see God Sumo will not agree. Please go back. Hearing this, Noah smiled. I didn't say that I needed to get permission to go in. With such a sentence, Noah directly took Lily's hand, who was at a loss, and walked in the direction of the Sumo's clan tribe headquarters. Stop. Sanis pulled out the weapon at his waist and pointed it at Noah. If you continue to move forward, we will treat you as enemies who intend to invade our clan tribe and report it to the guild. Hearing this, Noah stopped and turned his gaze to Sanis. Just when Noah cast his gaze on Sanis, the arrogant expression on Sanis' face froze. At this moment, Sanis really felt that he was being stared at by an extremely dangerous beast, and he began to feel a chill in his heart. This feeling made Sanis take a step back involuntarily. As Sanis' expression changed abruptly, Noah said faintly. In other words, you intend to start a battle between clan tribe and clan tribe here, right? We are just defending ourselves. Sanis said stubbornly. You are the ones who intend to break into our headquarters. That's where you're wrong. Noah glanced at Sanis. I just want to negotiate with your Lord God Sumo regarding the matter of Liluke Edi. Ha! Lily was stunned. Lily Luke Edi. Sanis finally looked Lily in the eye. His eyes were murderous. Eddie! What the hell are you doing? Lily suddenly fell into a state of confusion. Without giving Lily time to react, Noah spoke directly. I have already said the reason. If you stop me again, then I can only try to break in like you said. Having said that, Noah looked at Sanis with an intriguing gaze. Or, do you really intend to be enemies with me? Sanis' expression stiffened. Enemies. Enemies with the tyrant who single-handedly destroyed the entire clan tribe of Apollo. Only a fool would do that. I see, I will take you to see God Sumo, Sanis suddenly sneered. However, our Lord God is not the kind of guy who will receive guests politely. Eddie, you should know this best, right? Lily's face darkened as well. Only Noah had a thoughtful look in his eyes. On the top floor of the tower-like building, there was a private room. The interior of the room was furnished with a huge cabinet that was big enough to cover a wall. There were many seedlings of plants and transparent wine bottles inside. Other than that, there were only some normal furnishings in the room. In this room, there was a young Adonis who looked a little thin and tall, wearing loose clothes similar to a robe. Seeing this young Adonis, Lily could not help but feel nervous, which made Noah narrow his eyes. He was Sumo. Chapter 9:26. In the depths of the room with a spacious balcony, the god named Sumo was sitting at a work table, shaking the liquid in a transparent bottle and slowly pouring several different colored liquids from other bottles into it. As Sumo moved, the liquid in the bottle began to emit a charming wine fragrance. The aroma of the wine made Sanis' expression ease up, but it also made Lily's face turn pale bit by bit. There was no doubt that Sumo was making divine wine. Although it was not finished yet, the smell of the wine was enough to intoxicate the average person. However, while making the divine wine, Sumo did not pay attention to anything else at all. Whether it was Noah, Lily, and the others who came in from outside, or the explosion at the door, Sumo did not show any concern. He just mixed the ingredients for the wine there. Faced with Sumo's attitude, Noah felt a little angry. If Sumo was so focused that he could not care about anything else, then it would be fine. At least, that would mean that Sumo did not know what was going on around him. However, Sumo had obviously noticed the arrival of Noah and the others. In the end, this god just stood there with a look of indifference. In other words, Sumo was ignoring Noah and the others, and it was not that he did not notice the arrival of Noah and the others. Lily seemed to have expected this situation, and she bit her lip with her pearly white teeth. Sannies, like Lily, was not surprised by Sumo's cold attitude at all, and even showed some contempt in his eyes. This person was actually looking down on his Lord God. Under such circumstances, Sannies glanced at Noah and sneered. He took a step forward and said, "Don't worry. God Sumo, there is a guest here who seems to be planning to negotiate with you about some matters regarding your subordinate, Luluka Edi." As soon as Sannies' voice fell, Sumo's movement slowed down a little, but he did not stop and threw out such a sentence. "I'll leave it to you." From Sumo's words, Noah did not hear any part of trust. Obviously, Sumo said this not because he trusted Sannies and intended to leave the matter to Sannies, but because he was pushing the matter away. As for who was to blame, Sumo did not care. "Did you all hear that?" Sannies shrugged as if he had no other choice, and sneered. "Sumo has left everything to me. If there's anything, you can talk to me." Lily let out a self-tormenting laugh and tightened her grip on Noah's hand. "That's right, Lord Noah. If you have anything to discuss with Sumo's family, it's useless to talk to Sumo. Sumo has handed over all matters, big and small, to Lord Sannies. You can only talk to Lord Sannies. Talk to him." Noah turned around and looked at Sannies. As soon as he met Noah's eyes, Sannies felt as if he was being stared at by a dangerous beast, causing his expression to become unnatural. Seeing this, Noah could not help but laugh. He raised his head, looked at Sumo, and threw out such a sentence lightly. "Are you really a god?" The movements of Sumo's hands suddenly stopped. Not to mention Sumo, even Lily and Sannies were shocked by Noah's lack of respect, and instead, his words were full of sarcasm. "Although I can't say that every god I've seen is a good person, almost all of them have a strong sense of self, making people clearly realize that they are indeed transcendental existences that are different from us." Noah looked straight at Sumo, "But in you, I don't see any sense of self, and even your sense of existence is pitifully indifferent. So, are you really a god?" Lord Noah." Lily was a little frightened. "Now, there's nothing to talk about." Sannies smiled insidiously. Being denied by Noah so bluntly, no matter what Noah's purpose was, disrespect to a god was enough to cause Sumo to feel disgusted and break up the conversation. And that was what Sannies wanted to see. For Noah, who was obviously on Lily's side, Sannies did not think that he would come up with anything interesting. At least, for Sannies, it was definitely not something interesting. However, Noah's words did make Sumo react. Sumo raised his head slowly. Only then did Noah realize that Sumo had extremely long bangs that covered his eyes tightly. However, Noah also clearly felt Sumo's gaze. Immediately after, Sumo squeezed out this sentence. "What's the point of listening to children like you who are easily indulging in wine?" Hearing those words that lacked any inflection, Lily was speechless and froze on the spot. Even Noah completely understood Sumo's inner thoughts with this sentence. Sumo was disappointed. He was disappointed in the members of his faction, and he was also disappointed in the people of the lower realm. The reason for the distortion of Sumo's clan was undoubtedly because of the divine wine. Sumo took out the divine wine mainly because he wanted to use the divine wine as a reward to increase the motivation of the faction members. As a result, the children under Sumo's command were captured by the magic of the divine wine one by one, indulging in the pleasure brought by the divine wine. Sumo must have witnessed all kinds of ugly fighting behaviors of the children in the clan for a period of time in order to get the divine wine, right? Seeing such a scene, Sumo could not help but feel disappointed. Sumo did not mean any harm. No matter what, at least this Prince Charming did not deliberately use the divine wine to make the children in the clan go crazy in order to obtain funds, because his interest in brewing wine required a lot of financial support, so that he could earn money by any means. After Sumo was disappointed, he completely gave up on the people of the lower realm, no longer had any interest in them, and no longer cared about them. However, it was this look of extreme disappointment in the children that made Noah's heart burst with anger. Without any hesitation, Noah stepped forward and grabbed Sumo's collar. Sumo was caught off guard and lifted him up fiercely. "Lord Noah!" Lily turned pale with fright and was thrown into a panic. "You! What are you doing?" Sanis's expression also changed greatly, but he did not intend to step forward. There was only fear in his eyes when he looked at Noah, and he did not show any concern for the safety of his Lord God. Noah ignored Lily and Sanis's shocked look and held Sumo's collar. Looking at Sumo's bewildered look, he spoke in a deep voice. "What right do you have to be disappointed in your own children? Do you think that your clan members sank into the divine wine because their will was not strong enough? Do you think that you have no reason at all?" The three questions in a row made Sumo confused. Indeed, compared to you gods, many of the people in the lower realm are insignificant. Their wills are not firm either. Just a little bit of temptation is enough to make them fall. But it is precisely because of this that people need gods. They are praying for the gods' guidance, hoping that the gods will save them from the abyss of depravity, Noah said coldly. And you, from the beginning to the end, have never thought of guiding your own children. You have never played the role of a god. In this way, your children have fallen and fallen. Who can you blame? What right do you have to be disappointed in those children who have lost the guidance of God? Sumo's expression finally changed a little, and his eyes, hidden deep under his bangs, also wavered. I won't deny your attitude, because some people really can't stand the slightest temptation. Their current depravity is only drawing out the dark side of their hearts. However, I dare not compliment your irresponsible and self-righteous behavior. Noah snorted coldly. There are good deities and evil deities. There are good people and evil people. You can be disappointed in those evil people, however, you don't extend a helping hand to those who could be good. Therefore, you are not qualified to be disappointed in them. That's right. Zhang Tai said. After leaving these words, Noah unceremoniously shook off Sumo's collar, causing Sumo to fall to the ground. He stared blankly at Noah, unable to react for a long time. Come to think of it, no one had ever said this to Sumo before, right? Therefore, Sumo had never realized that his indifference was the reason for the distortion of the clan, right? Then, what Noah needed to do was to scold this dull god awake, right? Chapter 9:27. As Noah's voice fell, Sumo's room fell into a state of unbearable dead silence. Lily looked at Sumo, who had fallen to the ground, with a complicated expression on her face. Sanis looked at Noah in horror, as if he still could not believe that Noah would treat a god like this. Sumo, on the other hand, was at a loss as he murmured. It's all my fault. You've never thought that the problem lies with you, have you? Noah looked down at Sumo, who was at a loss, and the anger in his heart gradually turned into a trace of pity and sympathy. No matter what, you're still a god. If you can't even see this level of problem, then I advise you to go back to the heavens. The lower realm is really not suitable for you. Sumo fell silent. Forget it. After venting all the anger in his heart, Noah no longer beat around the bush and directly stated the purpose of his trip. I'm here just to ask you to release a member of your group. Of course, I'll pay the refund fee. Noah's words finally made the two gods present react. Lily clenched her fists tightly, and her palms began to sweat, but her eyes were full of strong expectation and pleading as she looked at Sumo. Sanis' expression changed, and he screamed in his heart. Sanis was actually a very insidious person who was extremely loyal to his desires. Not only did this guy privately resell the divine wine brewed by Sumo for money, but he also had an extreme desire for money and women. Including tasting delicious food, Sanis greedily enjoyed all the pleasures in this world that could satisfy his physical desires. Therefore, Sanis liked Sumo's clan very much. That was because, in this clan tribe, not only did Sangis cover the sky with one hand, but no matter how many bad things he was involved in, Sumo, as the Lord God, would turn a blind eye and let Sangis do whatever he wanted, lawless to the extreme. It was also because of this that Sanis expressed his respect for God incisively and vividly, but in his heart, he did not take Sumo seriously at all. Therefore, in addition to Sumo's indifference to the operation of the clan, Sanis, as the leader, was also a very important reason why Sumo's clan had deteriorated to this point. However, if Sumo began to have independent thoughts about the clan tribe, it would definitely be the worst situation for Sanis. In that case, it was very likely that Sumo would take out all the things that Sangis had done in private and settle them all. Because of this, Sanis absolutely could not let Sumo free himself from the state of indifference to the clan tribe. He could not let Sumo ask questions about the members of the clan tribe. Immediately, Sunny stood up anxiously. God Sumo, please leave this matter to me. I will definitely take care of it. Hearing this, Sumo turned his head and looked at Sanis. Seeing that his overgod was looking at him, Sanis had an ominous premonition. It was impossible for Sumo not to know what kind of person Sanis was. The reason why he had always allowed Sanis, a person with an ugly heart, to run amok in the clan tribe was not because Sumo did not know what kind of person Sanis was, but because he was disappointed in the children of the lower realm and did not care about the character of the people who managed the clan tribe. Now, with Noah's words, although Sumo could not be said to have come to his senses, he finally looked at the problem in front of him head-on. In this way, how could Sumo, who understood Sanis' character, listen to Sanis' words? Therefore, Sumo just glanced at Sanis, and immediately cast his gaze on Lily. After a while, he nodded. I understand. Sumo finally began to ask about the matters of the clan tribe. Damn it. Sanis' head heated up, and he looked at Noah fiercely and roared violently. It's all your fault. The hot-headed Sanis suddenly pulled out the one-handed sword at his waist and rushed in Noah's direction without any hesitation. The weapon in his hand drew a cold arc, and he slashed fiercely at Noah's head. Whoosh! However, almost at the same time, a foot seemed to appear out of thin air, carrying a whistling wind, and kicked heavily on Sanis' chest. Bang! The muffled sound rang throughout the room. Sanis spat out a mouthful of blood, and his whole body flew backward like a kite with a broken string, at a faster speed than when he rushed in Noah's direction. He hit the wall heavily, his head tilted, and he fainted. Only then did Noah retract his foot. He seemed to be talking to himself as he spoke indifferently. As a LV2 high-level adventurer, this guy will not be confused by the divine wine, but his conduct and actions are uglier than those who are confused by the divine wine. With such a sentence, Noah stared at Sumo. It was you who indulged this person and let him wantonly expand the number of people who disappointed you. Sumo was speechless. The room once again returned to silence. After an unknown amount of time, Sanis was dragged out of Sumo's room by two people. Sumo personally ordered Sanis to be locked in the dungeon. The members of Sumo's clan, who clearly knew that Sumo was indifferent to the clan tribe, were extremely shocked, but they still obediently carried out the orders of the Lord God and locked Sanis in the dungeon. It was not until Sanis was dragged out of the room that Lily came in front of Sumo, turned around, and took off her robe. She pressed the clothes in front of her and rolled up the clothes on her back, revealing her back that was engraved with the word grace. It was like an inscription, engraved with the word sacred. Lily Luca LV. 1 Strength, I, 42, Durability, I, 42, Dexterity, H, 143, Dexterity, G, 285, Magic Power, F, 3:17, Magic, Cinderella, Transformation Magic. Transformation image changes according to imagination when chanting. Failure when lack of specificity. Suggested imitation. Chant, your engraving belongs to me, and my engraving still belongs to me. Spell deciphering, the voice of the apocalypse at 12 o'clock. Skills, behind the scenes, bonus when the weight of the equipment exceeds a certain amount. Ability bonus is proportional to the weight. Relying on his sensitivity to language and writing, Noah now almost understood how to interpret the sacred characters, after seeing them many times. Seeing the ability value on Lily's back, Noah almost instantly interpreted the value above. Suamo directly picked up the sword that Sanis had dropped on the ground, cut a wound on his finger, and dripped the divine blood on Lily's back. The complex engraving emitted a soft blue light. Sumo's fingers gently slid on Lily's back, depicting a few specific movements. Immediately afterward, the light emitted from the engraving began to slowly fade, and even the engraving itself became faint. From this moment on, Lily's ability value was sealed. Because Suamo had transferred Lily's ownership, the divine blood no longer had an effect on the sacred characters. However, when Lily joined the clan again and obtained the divine blood of the main god of the clan, then her ability value would be awakened again. The freedom that she had been looking forward to for a long time was obtained just like that. Lily's heart was neither happy nor sad, only endless loss and complexity. This is the withdrawal fee. Noah put a money bag full of gold coins in front of Suamo, 3 million Varus, for a LV1 supporter's withdrawal fee. This should be enough, right? After saying this, Noah took Lily's hand, who was full of complicated feelings, and walked out of Sumo's room. Only Suamo was left at the scene, staring blankly at the backs of Noah and Lily as they left. After a while, he murmured, "Really, is it my fault?" After walking out of the Sumo's clan base camp, Lily, who had been silent, spoke softly. "Master Noah, thank you very much, I'm just doing what I want to do." Noah looked ahead. "What are your plans next?" Lily opened her mouth, but could not say anything. Seeing this scene clearly, Noah sighed. "Then, do you want to come to my side?" Lily was stunned. Chapter 9:28. When dusk came, Noah, who had returned to the base camp of Hestia's clan, was greeted with an indescribable silence the moment he stepped through the door. In the living room, Hestia, who had been reading a book, was lying on the sofa and staring at Noah blankly. She had no reaction. Actually, to be more precise, he was looking at the little human girl beside Noah. Baal, who was preparing dinner in the kitchen, also saw the little girl standing beside Noah. He held the spatula in his hand and blinked several times. After confirming that he was not mistaken, he was also stunned. Lily, who was still carrying a huge backpack and wearing a white robe, stood beside Noah nervously. When she saw Hestia's dumbfounded expression, she bowed deeply to Hestia. Hello. Lady Hestia. I'm Lily Luca Urda. I'm here to join your clan because of your reputation. Lily's speech did not break the silence in the hall. Instead, it made the atmosphere stiffen. The stiff atmosphere made Lily, who was already a little nervous, sweat drip down her forehead. She looked uneasy. Only Noah was able to maintain his usual calmness, but he also sighed and laughed bitterly. That's what she said. Don't you think it's rude to stand there in a daze? However, this time, even though Noah said that, Hestia and Baal did not react. They were still staring blankly at Lily and did not make a sound for a long time. When the atmosphere was so stiff that it was unbearable, Hestia murmured as if she was sleep-talking. Finally. Lily opened her eyes wide and nervously waited for Hestia to continue. Finally. Baal blinked again with a confused look on his face. Finally. Even Noah was a little confused, scratching his head in confusion. Under such circumstances, tears began to well up in Hastia's eyes. In the end, Noah was still abducted by another girl outside, and even brought that girl home. Ha! Lily was stunned. Ha! Baal was also stunned. Ha! Even Noah could not help but stand there in a daze. He was at a loss for words. At this moment, Hastia threw away the book in her hand and threw herself at Noah with tears in her eyes. No! I won't allow it! Hastia shouted. Before Noah could react, she threw herself on Noah and hugged Noah's head tightly with both hands. She even clamped her legs tightly on Noah's waist as she cried. I can't be abducted by a girl outside. Noah! All girls are vixens. They will eat Noah until there's nothing left. Only I, a pure virgin goddess, am worthy of you. Oh! Oh! Noah, who was hugged by Hastia, was completely stunned. His head was pressed in Hastia's arms, and his face was directly pressed into the goddess's breasts. Then, without even the time to feel shaken, Noah's breathing gradually became uneven. In the end, he couldn't even breathe, and his face turned ashen. Even if he was a god slayer, he still needed to breathe. Even if he was the darling of the world, Noah couldn't live without air. Therefore, under that unexpected attack, Noah's biggest crisis in history actually occurred at this time. Unable to even speak, Noah was so suffocated that his eyes rolled back and he fell to the ground. Lord Noah! Lily exclaimed. Exalted! Exalted God! Baal also reacted. He rushed out of the kitchen and paced around anxiously. Quick! Let go of the leader. He's going to die. He's going to die. Hastia seemed to have only just realized what situation Noah was in. She lowered her head and looked at Noah, who was in her arms, and her eyes widened. Instead of letting go, she anxiously hugged him tighter. Wah! Noah! You can't die. If you die, what will happen to me? Then hurry up and let go of me. Noah roared in his heart, but because of the lack of oxygen, he began to gradually become confused. Even his hands and feet became weak, and he couldn't pull away from the goddess. In the end, Noah could only faintly hear the screams of Hastia, Lily, and Baal, and then he lost consciousness. 10 minutes later, Noah, who was lying on the sofa, pressed his head and looked weak. Seeing Noah's weak appearance, Lily and Baal shuddered. They didn't expect that the tyrant, who couldn't even defeat Eulalia's ultimate weapon and single-handedly destroyed the entire Apollonian race, would almost be suffocated to death in Hastia's arms. The weapon named Goddess was simply too terrifying. Even Noah had a bitter smile on his face. I almost became the first god slayer in history to be suffocated to death by a girl. Hastia looked at Noah with tears in her eyes. Noah, what did you just say? Nothing. Noah sighed loudly, sat up from the sofa, and looked at Hastia with an annoyed expression. I want to ask you, what's wrong with you? Who told Noah to be abducted by a vixen outside? Hastia stared at Lily and pointed at her nose. By the way, who the hell are you? Lily's body stiffened when she saw Hastia's fierce glare. She didn't know what to do. Hey, Commander, Baal sneaked up to Noah and whispered. That child is the one who stole the weapon you bought for me last time, right? Yes. Noah didn't hide anything and nodded. Well, a lot of things have happened. In short, this child isn't a bad person. Don't worry about what happened in the past. No. I don't care. Baal quickly shook his head. Commander, you bought the weapon for me. Of course, you can decide what to do with it. I won't have any objections. That's good. Noah scratched his cheek and turned to Hastia, who was glaring at Lily. Hestia, don't be so hostile. A lot of things have happened to this child. She has suffered a lot in the past. If possible, I hope you can let her join our clan, so that she can enjoy the good times after the suffering. Hestia immediately raised her eyebrows, but her eyes didn't move away from Lily. She stared at Lily and puffed up her cheeks. Are you really not a bad girl who wants to abduct Noah? Chapter 929. That's it. Lily, who had confessed her past, lowered her head and didn't even dare to look at Hestia. She could only force out her words with great difficulty. Lily knows that Lily is a dirty person. If a dirty little person like Lily joins the Hestia clan, it is very likely that the reputation of the Hestia clan will be damaged, and it may also affect everyone. However, Lily will try her best to not get everyone involved. Please let Lily join the Hestia clan. The atmosphere in the hall became heavy as soon as Hestia finished her words. Your Highness, Baal said through clenched teeth as he looked at Hestia with a pleading gaze. I would also like to ask you to take in Miss Luluka. It was only natural that Baal would react this way. After all, Baal himself had been rejected by many of the clans, leading to his desperation. In the end, he was picked up by Hestia and joined her clan, so he didn't end up on the streets. Compared to Baal, Lily's situation was even worse. Therefore, if Hestia did not take Lily in, then Lily, who was a professional supporter, might end up like Baal and be rejected by all the clans. In the end, she could only end up on the streets. Baal, who didn't want to see others in the same situation as him, pleaded. It was obvious that he sympathized with Lily because they were in the same boat. However, Hestia only crossed her arms and closed her eyes as if she was deep in thought. She did not speak for a long time. Seeing this, Lily's heart became uneasy. Baal didn't dare to disturb Hestia, but his kind nature gave him the courage to do so. Your Highness, please. Before Baal could finish his sentence, Noah, who had been listening quietly, reached out his hand and pressed on Baal's shoulder. He shook his head at Baal. Hestia will make her own judgment. Just wait and see, Roland said. Baal opened his mouth, but in the end, he chose to keep quiet and obediently waited for Hestia's decision. After a while, Hestia opened her eyes and looked at Lily. I understand your situation now. I just want to ask you, after joining our clan, do you still plan to continue doing those dirty things? At this moment, Hestia's eyes seemed to be able to see through all the disguises in the world, which made Lily's heart tremble slightly. Lily knew that she was being tested by Hestia. But that was to be expected. Since Lily had such a criminal record, even if Hestia didn't blame her for what she had done in the past, if Lily continued to do that after joining Hestia's clan, it would be Hestia's fault. Hestia was different from Sumo. Although this little goddess basically did not have much ability, she would treat the children in her clan as her real family and was willing to take on everything for her children. She was much more responsible than Sumo. If Lily continued to do things that would ruin her reputation in the future, Hestia would definitely not allow it. Just like how a parent would never allow their child to steal or rob. Now, Hestia was in such a state. Under Hestia's gaze, Lily couldn't hide her feelings anymore. Because in front of God, the people of the lower realm could not lie. Once they lied, they would be seen through by God in an instant. Therefore, Lily took a deep breath and said the truest words in her heart. In fact, Lily also hates herself for being a dirty person, so Lily will not continue to do that kind of thing. The whole hall was suddenly silent. Hestia's eyes stared closely at Lily's eyes, and after a while, she said so. Then, if you do it again, what should I do? That won't happen, Lily said firmly. Lily will never do that kind of thing again. The moment he finished speaking, silence spread throughout the hall once again. Both Hestia and Lily remained silent. They kept looking at each other and didn't move their eyes away. Finally, Hestia nodded. I understand. In that case, I will allow you to join my clan. Hearing this, Lily abruptly raised her head and revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. Not only Lily, but even Bale was beaming with joy. But Hestia's expression suddenly became fierce. You must not have any ideas about Noah. Lily's eyes widened at Hestia's warning. Before Lily could react, Hestia trotted to Noah's side and hugged Noah's arm. She looked down at Lily condescendingly. Noah belongs to me alone. No one can have him. Lily's face twitched. For a moment, Lily had a strong urge to change her mind. She wanted to join Hestia's clan. Exalted goddess. Even Bel had an awkward expression on his face as he apologized to Lily. I'm sorry, Miss Lily. Lady Exalted Goddess means no harm. She just likes Leader too much. That's right. Hestia raised her head and said proudly. In this world, no one likes Noah more than I do. So, no one is allowed to touch my Noah. Hestia said proudly. What she did not know was that her love did not make Leyland's heart beat faster. Instead, it made him feel very heavy. Noah could only look at Lily speechlessly. Don't worry about this guy. Since you've joined our clan, you can live here from now on. Yes. Lily agreed with a face full of joy. However, Bale suddenly raised his hand timidly. There are only 3 rooms here, right? Noah and Hestia looked at each other in dismay. Indeed, there were only 3 rooms in this house. I can sleep in the living room. Bale quickly said. There's a sofa here. It's more comfortable than a bed. I can sleep in the living room. How can that be? Lily quickly shook her head. Lily is the youngest in Hestia's family. She should be the one to sleep in the living room. That won't do. Hestia objected, but what she said was different from what she had expected. I don't feel safe letting Miss Supporter sleep in a place where I can't see her. What if she suddenly breaks into Noah's room in the middle of the night? Lily and Bale were speechless. At this time, Hestia's eyes slightly turned and lit up. Right. Just let Miss Supporter stay in my room. Noah, Bale, and Lily looked at each other when they heard Hestia's words. Indeed, this was the best way to go. Unfortunately, Hestia didn't finish her words. Let Miss Supporter sleep in my room, and I'll share a room with Noah. Hestia finally revealed her plan. This way, I can keep an eye on Noah and prevent Noah from being abducted by a vixen. Lily and Bale almost fell to the ground. Even Noah felt weak all over. Is this Lolita goddess thinking about such nonsense all day long? That's enough, Noah said helplessly as he rubbed his temples. I'll let Lily sleep in my room. What? Hestia, Lily, and Bale were stunned. Then, they all cried out in surprise. Eh. When Noah heard their cries, he knew that they had misunderstood. What are you thinking? Noah rolled his eyes. I'm planning to go to the dungeon depths again tomorrow, so I won't be back for a while. That's why I let Lily sleep in my room. Hearing this, Hestia, Lily, and Belle finally let out a sigh of relief. An expedition to the deeper levels of the dungeon? Hestia asked worriedly. Is there a problem? It's not the first time I'm going to the dungeon depths. Noah rubbed Hestia's head. How could there be a problem? Hestia nodded and looked at Noah. Then you have to be careful. Don't worry. Noah smiled and nodded. Lily and Bale were envious. Entering the dungeon depths. Ordinary adventurers couldn't go to the dungeon depths. When would they be able to enter the dungeon depths? Noah's thoughts started to wander. It was time to leave this world. Chapter 930. On the 17th floor of the dungeon, Noah walked into the vast cave that led to the 18th floor, which could give birth to level 4 Goliath. After a few days, he entered the cave again. The last time he fought with level 4 Goliath and level 5 Goliath, it became bumpy and battered. The scene had been restored to its original state. The dungeon originally had an automatic repair function. Otherwise, the monsters born from the walls, floor, and ceiling would leave traces every time they broke free from the shackles of the rocks. Then, the entire dungeon would have been riddled with holes. Hence, Noah wasn't surprised at all when he saw that the cave was still intact. He only turned his gaze to the huge wall that could give birth to Goliath. Looking at the wall that was as smooth as ice, he rubbed his chin. It seems that this time, the level master will not violate the rules and appear. According to the rules of the dungeon, the birth time of the level master must be 1 or 2 months after death. The reason why the second Goliath appeared immediately last time and was upgraded to level 5 was entirely because Noah used divine power without permission and attracted the rejection of the dungeon. Now that Noah had entered in a well-behaved manner, it naturally wouldn't cause any abnormalities. If that's the case, I can also give it a try here. With such a sentence, Noah took out a piece of parchment. Noah Dole LV. 3 Power, SSS, 1761, SSS, 2000, Durability, SSS, 1775, SSS, 2000, Dexterity, SSS, 1763, SSS, 2000, Agility, SSS, 1778, SSS, 2000, Magic, SSS, 1750, SSS, 2000, Mystery, H Magic Guide, I Magic, Skills, Protection from the World, Permanent Skills. Equivalent to luck. Events that had a direct relationship with luck would eventually lead to the most favorable results. This morning, before Noah left the base camp of Hestia's family, Hestia helped Noah to update his ability value. After this period of twists and turns, Noah finally accumulated the proficiency of the basic ability to the maximum and could continue to upgrade to the next level. In the morning, Hestia also said that Noah had killed level 4 Goliath and level 5 Goliath, which was enough to upgrade. Noah could be upgraded to level 4. However, Noah did not let Hestia help him upgrade. This time, Noah had to do it himself. Since I found out that divine power not only reacts to authority, but also to grace, I have always had this idea. Noah held the parchment that recorded his ability value. Perhaps, I can also upgrade my ability value by myself. Who knows? This was not a baseless claim. This was because Noah's divine power was derived from a drop of God's blood that Hestia had dropped into Noah's body. Noah's mana source had absorbed a trace of the divine power and derived his divine power from it. Then, divine power should be able to play the same role as divine blood. Of course, that did not mean that when Noah used divine power, his blood would become divine blood. However, Hestia's divine blood had already been dripped into Noah's body and was absorbed by Noah's body. Then, using the energy extracted from Hestia's divine blood to draw out the divine blood in his body, it might have the same effect as Hestia herself dripping her divine blood on Noah. This was Noah's idea. During this period of time, the reason why Noah did not hurry to leave after obtaining the world fragment was because he wanted to learn the sacred script and master the method of upgrading his ability value with divine power. Otherwise, once he left this world, without Hestia, Noah would not be able to upgrade his ability value. That won't do. Noah suddenly smiled. God's grace is of great help to me. In fact, from the perspective of the improvement in strength, Noah's improvement brought by God's grace was really nothing much. After all, Noah had the authority that could rival divine power, and the gate of Babylon that was not inferior to the authority in the slightest. Compared to the power of authority and gate of Babylon, the improvement that God's grace brought to Noah was really nothing. However, the grace of God could continuously draw out the possibilities in Noah's body. At present, the grace did not bring much improvement to Noah, but when he reached LV5, LV6, LV7 or even LV8, how much improvement would it bring? If there was no end to the improvement, then how much improvement would it bring? This was one of the reasons why the grace was valued by Noah. The second reason was that the grace brought three aspects of development: ability, skills and magic. For example, the mystery that could cause miracles, or the magic that could increase the power of magic, and so on. These development abilities were very useful. Coupled with the discovery of skills and magic, as long as he could obtain a powerful skill or magic, it would be a profit for Noah. Then, there was the last and most important reason. That was one of the basic abilities, the durability, which would bring unimaginable benefits to Noah. This ability was mainly used to improve the body's ability to resist attacks, the ability to reduce physical damage, and the ability to bear the burden of the body. Don't forget, when Noah used that authority, once he used 2 avatars, not only would his magic power enter a state of intense consumption, but his body would also bear an unimaginable burden. Now, Noah had an unlimited source of magic power, so his magic power was no longer a problem. If he could increase the durability, then he could greatly extend the time he could use 2 avatars at the same time. In this way, when the durability ability was increased to the extreme, it would not be a dream for Noah to freely use all 10 avatars. Of course, using avatars at the same time would also bring a burden to the spirit. But Noah's soul was originally very strong, and the strength of the spirit, which was directly linked to the soul, would also continue to increase. Considering from this point of view, it could be understood how much the grace would help Noah, right? With such expectations, Noah closed his eyes, and his mind was immersed in the source of magic power in his body. With a move of Noah's mind, the dark hole-like source of magic power began to spin, and instantly turned into a source of divine power. Then, Noah controlled the divine power in the source of divine power, and let the divine power flow through his body. At this moment, Noah felt the ability value on his back emit an amazing temperature. Immediately, Noah poured the divine power into the ability value on his back in one breath. Clang! Outside, Noah's back suddenly bloomed with a blue light, illuminating the whole space. Immediately after, Noah's mind entered a dreamlike state. It was as if he was constantly sinking into the depths of his body, discovering some bright specks of light. Noah's mind was shocked, and without hesitation, he used his mind to wrap up those spots of light, and led them into his body. Suddenly, on Noah's back, the hard-to-understand text began to jump, and gradually changed. After an unknown amount of time, the text followed the blue light and disappeared into Noah's back. At the same time, a wave of information followed the flow of divine power in Noah's body, and rushed into Noah's mind. Noah Dole LV. For strength, SSS, 2000, A, 846, durability, SSS, 2000, A, 868, dexterity, SSS, 2000, A, 855, agility, SSS, 2000, A, 873, magic, SSS, 2000, A, 842, mystery, H magic, A swordsman, I magic skill, protection from the world, a permanent skill. Equivalent to luck. Events that were directly related to luck would eventually lead to the most beneficial result. The corner of Noah's mouth slowly lifted. Chapter 931. This was a very peaceful forest. There were no signs of human habitation, and there was no end to it. It was like an endless ocean. At a glance, everything was green. In this tranquil forest, a small stream slowly flowed from afar. It was like a small Milky Way, embellishing this lush sea of trees, giving people a feeling of being in a paradise. However, this tranquility did not last long. Bang! Accompanied by an extremely sudden and heavy muffled sound, a rather large black shadow suddenly shot out from a corner of the forest. Soon after, it crashed onto the ground. Dong! Under the impact of the rather large black shadow, the ground trembled slightly. Gravel flew everywhere, and smoke rose everywhere. After which, amidst the dense dust and rock fragments that flew in all directions, the enormous black figure rubbed against the ground, plowing a long gully on the ground. It dragged for nearly 100 meters before slowly coming to a stop. Upon closer inspection, it was actually a giant made of stone. It was about 2 to 3 meters tall, and had an extremely sturdy human silhouette. Paw 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 paw. The sudden huge movement caused the birds in the forest to flutter their wings in panic and flee. A-oh! The stone giant that was knocked down on the ground let out a roar that was both angry and fearful. It struggled to get up from the ground. At this moment, in the depths of the forest, a clear sound of footsteps began to reverberate. In the clear sound of footsteps, a human figure slowly appeared in front of it. A-oh! Looking at the figure that slowly appeared from the depths of the forest, the stone giant's roar became even more fearful. Then, the owner of the figure stopped and slightly raised his head, exposing his face to the dazzling sun. The newcomer had black hair and black eyes. It was Noah who left the world of looking for a chance encounter in the underground city, and came to a new world. Looking at the big guy that was roaring at him, Noah raised his eyebrows. You seem to be able to more or less understand the meaning of my words. Then, you should know that if you continue to fight like this, you definitely won't be able to win against me. Why don't you just obediently back down here? The stone giant seemed to be able to more or less understand the meaning of Noah's words. A pair of hollow eyes stared at Noah. A long while later, it finally emitted a roar that was filled with unwillingness. It took heavy steps and gradually retreated into the depths of the forest opposite of Noah. Seeing this, Noah let out a sigh of relief and laughed bitterly. What a strange world. It had already been half a day since Noah had come to this world. During this half a day, Noah felt as if he had returned to the time when he entered the deep mountains and forests for cultivation. It was almost impossible for him to have a moment of peace. As for why, it was because there seemed to be many unknown creatures in this forest. When Noah entered this world, he appeared in this forest. Then, after spending half a day, Noah was looking for a way out of the forest. In the end, as he was unfamiliar with this place, naturally it was not so smooth. If he simply wanted to leave the forest, there were many ways to do so. However, the unknown creatures in this forest would come out from the surroundings from time to time and cause various disturbances to Noah. At the beginning, Noah was found by a flame-like creature that could float, move, and even make sounds. It was obvious that it had life and consciousness. It seemed to be deliberately luring Noah and continuously led Noah into the depths of the forest. In addition, there were birds that could summon fog, flowers that emitted poisonous gas, small lizards that crawled in the dark, and even trees that walked on their own. Moreover, they seemed to be deliberately trying to mess with Noah. In various ways, Noah was badly battered, which was why Noah was still unable to find a way out of the forest. Most importantly, there seemed to be many powerful creatures in this forest. For example, the stone giant just now. According to the monster classification that Noah encountered in the dungeon in the previous world, the stone giant was at least level 3, which was much stronger than the Minotaur. Unfortunately, for an opponent of this level, even though Noah had just arrived in this world and had not reached the point where he could use his authority, he could still easily deal with it. After all, before leaving the previous world, Noah had updated his ability value on his own and raised it to LV4. Moreover, his all-around strength value had reached stage A. To put it bluntly, the current Noah, even if he did not use enhancing magic, with the level 4 bonus and the 4 basic ability enhancements of strength, durability, dexterity, and agility, he could definitely compete with Hercules, the berserker, and not be at a disadvantage. If he used enhancing magic, he could directly crush Hercules without any suspense. Wasn't it easy to deal with the LV-3 stone giant, as easy as it could be? Of course, the stone giant that was equivalent to LV-3 was the strongest creature that Noah had encountered in the past half a day. The rest of the creatures were equivalent to LV-2, and there were even creatures equivalent to LV-1, but they were all dealt with by Noah with one hand. However, after being messed up by these inexplicable creatures, Noah had completely lost his direction and could not find a way out. If possible, I don't want to use the treasures and items in the treasure room for the time being. Who knows what kind of world this world will be? If I were to usher in the same situation as the last time when I casually used divine power in the underground city, then the loss would outweigh the gain. Noah rubbed his temples. If there is really no other way, then I will use the treasures and items in the treasure room. For now, let's see if I can find a way out by myself. After making up his mind, Noah looked around. Although he could not see with his eyes, with Noah's excellent sensing ability, he could still sense that there were many creatures hiding in the surrounding forest. These creatures were the same as the ones that deliberately led Noah to get lost. They had been waiting for an opportunity to move and were ready to attack at any time. However, Noah did not feel any malice from these creatures. He reckoned that these creatures were just pranking Noah and deliberately leading Noah to get lost. Although they are not harmful, aren't they too mischievous? Noah sighed. If that's the case, it will be difficult to deal with them. What a pity. After saying that, Noah raised his awareness to prevent himself from being led astray by those inexplicable creatures. At the same time, he expanded his sensing ability. Noah's sensing ability was not a scouting ability. It was similar to a sixth sense. Of course, this ability could not be used to scout, but it could be used to detect the aura of any creature. If he could find the aura of a human in the forest, then Noah would be able to walk out of the forest. However, the range of Noah's sensing ability was not very wide. At most, it could only expand to a range of tens of meters with him as the center. Therefore, at the same time that he expanded his sensing ability, Noah had to keep moving around to be able to scout. Just like that, Noah continued to scout in the forest with all sorts of strange creatures. In the blink of an eye, the sky was gradually turning to dusk. No, there's no other way. In a corner of the forest, Noah finally gave up on self-reliance. Let's try using the relic and tools in the treasure room. As soon as he made this decision, before Noah could open his treasure room, a faint sound came into Noah's ears from the direction of the forest. Noah was slightly startled, then his eyes lit up. A human voice. It was indeed a human voice. Although it was very weak, Noah heard it. I hope it's not those mischievous creatures. Noah walked in the direction of the sound. Not sure if it was because Noah walked in the right direction, the trees in front of him began to decrease and his vision became wider. Not long after, a building appeared in Noah's vision. Chapter 932. Looking at the building that suddenly appeared in front of him, Noah almost couldn't believe his eyes. This was because the building in front of him was too luxurious. Not only was there a pure white wall like a city wall, but there was also an extremely beautiful courtyard inside the wall. Several exquisite minarets were located in several directions, making the building look like a palace. It was quite luxurious. The luxurious building seemed to have been specially designed with a lot of effort. The surroundings were filled with plants to beautify the environment, and there was also a fountain. In front of the building, there was a river flowing with clear water. On the river, a bridge was built on top of it, connecting the entrance of the building to the road in Noah's direction. Of course, if the building was just too luxurious, Noah wouldn't be so surprised. However, in such a forest with all kinds of strange creatures, there was actually such a luxurious building, which was really surprising. The faintly discernible sounds that Noah heard came from inside the building. From where Noah was looking, he could even see that inside the building, there were some girls in pure white uniforms chatting and laughing while taking a stroll in the beautiful courtyard. Uniforms. Noah was really surprised. Could it be that it's a school? After being surprised, Noah began to ponder. It seems that the breakthrough of this world is here. As long as it was a place with people, he would be able to obtain information. Although the luxurious building in front of him was located in an inexplicable forest, which made Noah feel more or less strange, looking at the atmosphere inside, it didn't seem to be a shameful place. However, since this building was built in such a place, it's very likely that it was built to isolate people. There are things that ordinary people can't come into contact with. Just like Haolang Academy, which is researching surpassers, it's best not to barge in openly. Noah couldn't help but feel helpless. In the end, I still have to use it, don't I? After saying that, Noah extended one of his hands to the side. Buzz. A golden ripple directly fluctuated in the space next to Noah. It was like a ripple on the surface of the water, suspended there. Noah directly reached his hand into the golden ripple and took out a helmet from it. To be precise, it was a helmet-shaped hat that looked like a helmet. Although this hat didn't have any combat effect, it was still a treasure. Almost everyone knew that Hades, the king of the underworld in Greek mythology, had a helmet that could make him invisible. This was Hades' helmet of invisibility. Its only ability was to hide the wearer's body so that no one could discover the wearer's existence. Even smell and sound could be eliminated, achieving the effect of complete invisibility. I've lived for so long, but I've never tried to become invisible. Suddenly, Noah's of course. Buzz. In the next moment, Noah's figure slowly disappeared amidst the tremors in the air. Once he sneaked into the luxurious palace-like building, the first thing he did was to the courtyard. Around him, there were girls in pure white uniforms, chatting and laughing as they passed by. Each of the girls had the temperament of a lady from a wealthy family, which made Noah extremely curious. Why would such a group of girls stay in such a luxurious building in the forest? Could it be that this is the same place as Haolang Academy? With such doubts and curiosity, Noah walked forward aimlessly while carefully listening to the conversations of the girls around him. Hey, did you hear? The fire cat and the ice demon from the crow class are fighting in class again. Why is it the two of them again? They quarrel like that every day. How dare they call themselves aristocrats? That's why I can't stand those outstanding problem children in the crow class. After all, one is an elf user from a declining aristocrat, and the other is a lady from a rural aristocrat. It's natural that they don't have good manners. That's true. While saying this, those young ladies with noble temperaments brushed past Noah, who couldn't be seen at all. Noah knitted his brows and mocked them. Don't worry, you're just a bunch of young ladies. No matter how much of a lady from a wealthy family they are, mocking others behind their backs is nothing more than a group of lowly girls. However, from the conversation of the girls, Noah was able to glean a few pieces of information. First, this was indeed a school, or at least it had the same nature as a school. Otherwise, there would not be such a name, crow class, which was obviously used to differentiate between groups. Secondly, there seemed to be some aristocrats among the students here. Lastly, there was a term that Noah was rather concerned about. Elf user. Noah muttered. What kind of existence is that? After suppressing these doubts deep in his heart, Noah continued walking. It had to be said that this place was really big. The courtyard alone was enough to build a normal school, let alone a real school, which was ridiculously big. Perhaps it was because it was already dark, but the number of people gradually decreased. This made Noah unable to obtain much useful information from the conversations of the people here. However, Noah snuck into some of the buildings and saw something similar to a classroom, which made him even more certain that this was a school. However, for some reason, the interior environment of the building here was very strange. The stairs were crisscrossed. The corridor had many turns and forks. From time to time, some incredible creatures like the ones in the forest outside would pass by the corridor. Sometimes, they were beast-like creatures. Sometimes, they were creatures filled with a magical atmosphere. Sometimes, they were creatures like will-o'-the-wisps. Sometimes, they were creatures like balls of light. Walking in such a place, it was extremely easy to feel as if one had entered a fairy tale world. The feeling was as if this was not a place where humans should live, but a place where those wonderful creatures should live. Noah, who almost got lost again, finally walked out of those strange buildings with a distressed face. I don't understand. Every time he enters a new world, Noah generally needs to spend a lot of effort to obtain information about the world. For Noah, this is undoubtedly the most difficult stage. After all, if he doesn't first understand what kind of world the current world is, then he will be limited everywhere and can't move freely. If this world also has a world will like Gaia and Alea to help, Noah can only leave such a useless hope and continue to walk here. At this time, from one of the buildings, a person walked out. It was a tall woman who wore a red suit similar to that of an office lady. She had long grayish-silver hair and a seductive face full of mature charm. She also wore a pair of small glasses on her face. She looked to be a woman in her 20s or 30s. Noah's outstanding sensing ability allowed him to sense an unusual aura from this mature woman, causing him to stop in his tracks and stand there. Then, the mature woman slowly walked past Noah, her high-heeled shoes making loud sounds as she walked past him. It was at this moment that the mature woman stopped her footsteps. At the same time, Noah narrowed his eyes. Then, Noah, whose back was facing the mature woman, heard such a bewitching voice with a sneer and admiration. "You can actually let me get close to you before I notice your existence. You can be proud, intruder." The moment the words fell, a thick dark fog suddenly rose from Noah's back. Chi-chi. Following the emergence of the black fog, the surrounding air seemed to be filled with the smell of death and decay. This caused the leaves that fell from the nearby trees to rapidly wither at a speed visible to the naked eye when they came into contact with the fog. In an instant, they had completely withered and lost all signs of life. Immediately, the pitch-black fog was like a tidal wave. With a roll, it surged wildly toward Noah, who was wearing an invisible helmet and concealing his figure. Chapter 933. Who? The thick dark fog surged out and directly shrouded Noah, who was wearing the invisibility helmet. There was not the slightest deviation, telling Noah that the other party was not bluffing, but had really discovered him. Hence, Noah's body moved as he sensed the corrosive wind coming from behind him. He suddenly shifted in the air and retreated in an instant. Bang! The dark fog with some fishy wind hit the ground where Noah was just now, setting off a strong impact wind, but it did not damage the ground at all. However, if a living person were to come into contact with that corrosive wind, their skin would probably be corroded, right? The pitch-black fog that mist condensed in mid-air, turning into a pitch-black mass that looked like sewage. It fell on one of the mature woman's outstretched hands. The other party held the dark mass like dirty water and licked the corner of her mouth like a cruel demon, but also like an evil witch. Her eyes, which were the same color as her hair, shot straight in the direction of Noah. "Come out, in front of me, that kind of little trick is useless. Don't tell me you haven't heard of my name, Twilight Witch Greyvath Sharumis." "I really haven't heard of it." Noah curled his lips and took off the invisibility helmet on his head. Immediately, Noah's figure slowly appeared in front of the woman who called herself Greyvath. "Oh." Greyvath raised her eyebrows. "It's actually a man." Noah could more or less guess the reason why the other party said so. This was most likely an all-girls school. Because, from the beginning to the end, Noah did not see a single man here. So, that's why the other party had such a reaction, right? Can I ask? Noah glanced at the dark mass that undulated back and forth on Grey Vath's hand, then looked directly at Grey Vath and asked. How did you find me? The concealment ability of the invisibility helmet was superb. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called a precious artifact. Not only could it completely hide the wearer's figure, but it could also eliminate smell and sound. Logically speaking, apart from someone like Noah who had a sixth sense, they shouldn't have been able to discover it. You're really good at hiding yourself. Even I only noticed you after I got close to you. I guess it's because you don't have any malicious intent or killing intent, right? Grey and Vath looked at Noah with interest. It's a pity that I've offended too many people. Up until now, I've spent more than half of my life being targeted by assassins hiding in the dark. It's useless to hide beside me. I see. Noah shrugged and tossed the helmet of invisibility away, allowing it to be swallowed up by the golden ripples that suddenly appeared above his head. Grey Vath, who had been observing Noah, saw this scene and the interest in her eyes grew stronger. You seem to have some interesting things. Thanks for the compliment, Noah said unhurriedly. Anyway, I'm not here to assassinate you, and I don't have any improper thoughts about anyone here. For this reason, can you let me go? That won't do. Grey Vath licked the corner of her mouth once again. Her expression was like a demon eyeing its prey, with a hint of flirtatiousness. This is the Elven Academy of Alicia, which specializes in nurturing elven envoys. More than half of the noble ladies of the Alicia Empire are here. If I let a man like you run around and something happens, I'll be in big trouble. Although that was what she said, Grey Vath didn't seem to be worried about this at all. Instead, she smiled sweetly as if she was interested in Noah. So, young man, you should stay. After saying that, Grey Vath slowly clenched her hand that was holding the pitch-black lump. Whing! Suddenly, the pitch-black lump in Grey Vath's hand rose up as if it was boiling. It gradually extended and turned into a long strip. In the next moment, the color that covered the long strip of pitch-black lump began to fade, exposing the object inside the lump to the air. It was a pitch-black knight's sword. Like a demon's scythe, the pitch-black knight's sword stirred up gusts of chilly wind. The moment the pitch-black knight's sword appeared, Noah's eyes narrowed. Without any warning, he took a step back. A golden ripple appeared in his hand, and a knight's sword flickered with golden light and fell into Noah's hand. Clang! Almost at the same time, the pitch-black knight's sword turned into a sword light, bringing along a cold arc as it shot towards Noah's throat. Clang! The sound of steel colliding with steel echoed in the air. The golden knight's sword clashed with the pitch-black knight's sword, creating sparks that filled the sky. Through the sparks that filled the sky, Noah and Grey Vath held their weapons tightly and looked at each other in surprise. So fast, this was the reason why Noah was surprised. He actually took it. This was the reason why Grey Vath was surprised. After the surprise, the two of them looked at each other with interest. At that moment, Noah's hand that was holding the sword tightened, and the strength that was added to the sword instantly increased by a few points. Clang! The two knights' swords clashed together violently, creating even more intense sparks. Grey Vath only felt a huge force pushing against Noah's sword, forcing her to give up the fight with Noah. As expected of a man, you have quite a lot of strength. After saying this, a phosphorescent wave of air burst out from Grey Vath's body, and poured into the pitch-black knight's sword through Grey Vath's hand. Clang! The pitch-black knight's sword burst out with a dense black light, turning into sword shadows that slashed towards Noah's body like lightning. When the phosphorescent wave of air burst out from Grey Vath's body, Noah became a little more serious. This was because although Noah didn't know what the phosphorescent wave of air that surged from Grey Vath's body was, it gave Noah the feeling that it was very similar to magic power, divine power, and other supernatural and mysterious powers. It was very likely that it was also a kind of energy used to activate some kind of power. As this thought flashed through his mind, the knight's sword in Noah's hand suddenly soared to the extreme. Like a misty cold light, like a fierce electric light, with an unparalleled momentum and a heart-palpitating speed, it directly enveloped Grey Vath's sword's shadows. Clang, 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 clang. All of a sudden, the sound of metal clashing rang out one after another. In the vast courtyard, two black shadows kept colliding, unfolding a dazzling sword dance. Noah's strength was overwhelming. After all, with his level raised to LV4 and his all-around strength raised to A stage, Noah's physical ability was now able to confront Hercules, who used to be his servant. With Grey Vath's tall and slender figure, it was estimated that she would be crushed by Noah's strength at the moment of contact. However, facing such a Noah, Grey Vath faced him head-on without fear, swinging a whirlwind of slashes. Grey Vath's strength didn't change. However, relying on the unknown phosphorescent power fluctuating around her, the knight's sword in Grey Vath's hand repeatedly bloomed with light, as if she was relying on the weapon to trigger a powerful force. Facing Noah, who was swinging his sword like a storm, she gathered all the power of the weapon to deflect the slashes that could split mountains and split rocks. If not, Grey Vath would definitely be defeated in an instant. As a result, Grey Vath's every attack contained almost all of her strength. If Grey Vath was a whirlwind, then Noah was a storm. Undoubtedly, his body that wasn't very strong showed an overwhelming sense of existence. Undoubtedly, the sword strikes that seemed to be light fell like meteorites. Over time, even with the support of the unknown power, which made the weapon burst out with a powerful force, Grey Vath gradually began to be unable to hold on and retreated. Chapter 934. Clang 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 clang. The sounds of swords and halberds continued to vibrate in the air. It was like an echo that continued to reverberate. In the vast courtyard, the bright sword light and the pitch-black sword light repeatedly clashed, setting off gusts of wind and sparks. It was dazzling. However, if one observed carefully, they would definitely be able to discover it. As time passed, the pitch-black sword light began to gradually slow down, while the resplendent sword light seemed to be at ease. Not only did it not weaken in the slightest, its strength and speed even increased, causing every slash to turn into a heavy blow that was not the slightest bit weaker than a meteor, shaking the ground to the point that it began to burst out pieces of gravel. In fact, Noah had indeed been merciful. Otherwise, with Noah's current ability value that was comparable to that of Hercules, even if he couldn't instantly kill Grey and Vath, he could at least end the battle faster. The reason why he didn't do so was because he didn't want to hurt Grey and Vath, and cause the relationship between them to be irreconcilable. No matter what, Noah was the one who had invaded the Elven Academy of Alicia Elves. The one who was in the wrong was definitely not Grey and Vath, but Noah. However, Grey and Vath's strength was indeed above Noah's expectations. Grey and Vath's swordsmanship wasn't inferior to Noah's at all. It was only because the difference in physical ability was too great that she fell into such an obvious disadvantage. It was just like when Noah went up against Hercules. However, Grey and Vath had a kind of power similar to magic and divine power. This kind of power seemed to be used to activate the weapon in her hand to display amazing power. This was why Grey and Vath, who were much weaker than Noah in terms of physical ability, could last until now. The weapon in her hand was transformed from the pitch-black mass. If Noah wasn't mistaken, that pitch-black mass was the same as those incredible creatures that Noah encountered in the forest outside and in the buildings in this academy. In other words, Grey and Vath had such a degree of power because of her amazing swordsmanship, and the weapon that was transformed from an incredible creature was another important reason. In this academy, Noah had heard the term Elven Envoy more than once from the conversations of the students. Gray and Vath had also said that this academy was dedicated to cultivating elven envoys. Then, Gray and Vath should be the so-called elven envoy, right? That incredible creature that could transform into a weapon and play around with Noah in the forest should be the so-called elves, right? And the inexplicable power that surged around Gray and Vath constantly activated the weapon of the elven envoy. Could it be the source of the envoy's power? If a magician wanted to use magic, he had to consume magic. Then, if this so-called envoy wanted to use the weapon transformed from the elven envoy, would he also have to consume that kind of power? Noah, who had various guesses in his heart, suppressed the thoughts in his heart while waving his sword as fast as lightning. Clang! A clashing sound that was louder than before rang out. For this blow, Noah used his full strength under the state of LV4. Gray and Vath, who were struggling to hold on, were completely blown away by this lightning-like blow even though they blocked it. Their figure bounced into the air, and before landing on the ground, it took a lot of effort for them to adjust their body and land on the ground. The whole place suddenly became quiet. Gray and Vath slowly raised her head and looked at Noah without the previous calmness on her face. There was only unconcealable solemnity and a bit of a bitter smile. It's really surprising. I didn't expect that I couldn't even deal with someone who isn't even an envoy. Am I really old? Old? Noah had a strange look on his face. Gray and Vath's appearance, although they couldn't be said to be very young, they should be around 20 or 30 years old, right? They were far from being old, right? Later, Noah realized how superficial his thoughts were. Young man. Gray and Vath looked at Noah and asked, "What's your name?" Noah. Noah hesitated for a moment, then said his name. Noah Dole. Dole. Gray and Vath frowned. I've never heard of your surname. Is it a fake name? I'm sorry. Noah shrugged. This is my one and only name, my real name. Gray and Vath stared into Noah's eyes, but could only see the calmness in those dark and deep eyes. Your eyes don't look like you're lying. Gray and Vath's expression relaxed a little. Okay, I believe you. At this moment, a commotion began. Over there. The fighting sounds just now came from there. Quick. Let's go and see. Along with the commotion, a series of messy footsteps began to sound. Noah could see that not far away, some people carrying lanterns were rushing over. Seeing this, Noah frowned. This is a bit troublesome. Gray and Vath naturally noticed the commotion. She stood up, and the black long sword in her hand turned into a black mist and disappeared into the air. Then, Gray and Vath said to Noah, "Follow me." Noah was stunned. You don't want to be discovered, do you? Gray and Vath turned around. Although there shouldn't be a problem with me around, I don't know where you come from, and I don't know why you're here. It's impossible to explain to the knights. If you don't explain, you'll only become a suspicious person. To avoid trouble, follow me. After that, Gray and Vath ignored Noah, as if they were sure that Noah would follow them. They walked towards the door of the building that they had walked out from earlier. Noah glanced at Gray and Vath, and then looked at the group of black figures that were gradually approaching. In the end, he helplessly threw the relic in his hand back into the treasury and caught up with Gray and Vath. In the empty corridor, Gray and Vath walked in front of Noah with clear footsteps made by their high heels. They shuttled back and forth in the complicated corridor without stopping at all. Noah, who was following behind Gray and Vath, could only ask in confusion. Why is the terrain here so complicated? For us humans, this kind of environment is indeed difficult to adapt to, but for the elves, this kind of place is very comfortable, Gray and Vath replied without turning back. Basically, every place that has a lot to do with the elves will be built like this. Compared to humans, we should consider the comfort of the elves more. Don't tell me you don't know this. I really don't know, Noah muttered in his heart, and at the same time, he confirmed his previous guess. Those incredible creatures are indeed elves. Elves are messengers. Noah's heart jumped because of the unknown power. I wonder if this power can also help me. With this thought in mind, under the lead of Gray and Vath, Noah stopped in front of a heavy door. Come in. Gray and Vath pushed the door open and walked in. This is my office. At this time, no one will come in. Noah didn't pretend to be pretentious. Under the lead of Gray and Vath, he walked into the office. It was a very spacious and luxurious office. The area was comparable to a hall, and the floor was covered with a red carpet. There were all kinds of decorative curtains hanging on the surrounding walls, and there was an office desk in front of them. Instead of calling it an office, it was more like a conference room. It was just that it lacked a round table. Gray and Vath sat down behind the office desk. She crossed her hands and placed them on the table. She looked straight at Noah, and the corner of her mouth curled up slightly. All right, young man, it's time to tell me your origin, right? Origin. Noah looked around and answered absent-mindedly. Didn't I tell you my name already? Oh. Gray and Vath narrowed her eyes. In other words, you only want to tell me your name. I want to tell you something else. Noah turned his head and looked at Gray and Vath. But, even if I tell you, you won't believe me. I might as well not tell you. You still choose to hide under such circumstances. You have guts, Gray and Vath asked. Then, what is your purpose? Chapter 935. Purpose. Under the gaze of Gray and Vath, Noah let out a bitter laugh. If I said that I came here because I lost my way, would you believe me? Lost your way? Gray and Vath were taken aback for a moment, and their eyes began to flicker with displeasure. Since you lost your way, why did you sneak into this academy? What can I do? Noah rolled his eyes. An academy built in the depths of the mountains and forests. No matter how I look at it, it's suspicious. If there's something shameful here, why would I stupidly barge in through the entrance? Wouldn't that be asking for trouble? Oh. You're really bold, aren't you? Gray and Vath's smile became unfriendly. You actually said that the elven forest that is connected to the elemental elves' world is deep in the mountains and forests. You even said that an academy built to train elven users is shameful for being located in the elven forest. If your words were to spread, you would probably be condemned by the entire continent and the elves. Speaking of this, Gray and Vath's gaze towards Noah became more and more thought-provoking. Or are you saying that you don't even know the basic knowledge that everyone in the continent knows? You don't even know about the existence of elves and elven users. Are you a suspicious person? At this moment, Gray and Vath's gaze was filled with coercion, as though they were a judge who wanted to force a criminal into a corner. Facing Gray and Vath's coercive gaze, Noah's expression remained calm, but he secretly sighed in his heart. Sure enough, was he exposed? In order not to arouse suspicion, Noah tried his best not to ask any questions. However, Noah only had a rough idea about elves and elven users based on his own guesses. He didn't know much about them at all. Here, the elves weren't the magical races in the world of looking for a chance encounter in the underground city. They had sharp ears, outstanding looks, and pure hearts. They would never be touched by people they didn't approve of. Instead, they were another kind of incredible creatures. This kind of creature seemed to be able to establish some kind of strange relationship with the humans in this world. It could even transform into the weapons of the humans who had an extraordinary relationship with it, allowing the mere existence of an ordinary human to display the power of an adventurer who had received its favor. These humans who could enslave elves seemed to be called elven users. And in order to enslave those inconceivable creatures called elves, it seemed that some kind of energy similar to magic and divine power was required. That was all Noah knew. Thus, with the increase in conversation, Noah, who basically didn't know much about this world, would naturally reveal his suspicious side. Since this was basic knowledge that everyone in this world knew, wouldn't it be suspicious if Noah didn't know? However, Noah couldn't stop the conversation with Gray and Vath. After all, Gray and Vath could discover Noah's suspicions through the conversation, and Noah could also obtain some information he wanted through the conversation. Therefore, Noah and Gray and Vath were simply testing each other. What kind of person I am, or even whether I'm suspicious or not, that's not important. What's important is that you only need to know that I don't have any enmity or malice towards this academy. Noah crossed his arms and swept his gaze around. But your identity is much easier to guess. You're not wearing a student's uniform, and you have such a luxurious personal office. You probably don't have a special position here, and you're the dean of this academy, right? Hearing this sentence, Gray and Vath weren't surprised that their identities were exposed. Instead, they were stunned and couldn't help but laugh a few times. Interesting. You actually don't even know me, the Twilight Witch. I'm really getting more and more interested in your identity. From Gray and Vath's words, it could be inferred that her name was absolutely resounding to the point where it could be known by everyone in the world. However, whether it was a good name or a bad one, that was unknown. After all, Gray and Vath herself had said that more than half of her life was spent being assassinated by others. So much so that Gray and Vath's senses were sharpened by the long-term assassinations to the point that even Noah, who was using Hades' invisibility helmet, could discover them. It was enough to see the ability of this mature woman. Noah, who had just arrived, didn't know Gray and Vath. It seemed that this place had become a suspicious place. Realizing this, Noah smiled bitterly in his heart. This witch was really hard to deal with. As you said, I am indeed the dean of this academy, Gray and Vath admitted straightforwardly. Originally, the best way to deal with a suspicious person like you is to directly report to the Empire and let the Empire deal with it. However, since even I can't do anything to you, then even if the Empire's most elite knights are dispatched, I'm afraid that they won't be able to do anything to you. In order to avoid unnecessary disputes and casualties, I will turn a blind eye. As long as I can confirm that you don't really have any ulterior motives, to me, that's enough. After saying that, Gray and Vath stood up and crossed their arms. However, you are an existence that isn't even an elven envoy, and even I can't do anything to you. If I let you walk freely in the Empire, you might really cause some trouble. What should I do? Oh. Noah's heart skipped a beat, and he asked without batting an eyelid. Could it be that just because I'm not an elven envoy, I can't do anything to an elven envoy? For an ordinary person who isn't an elven envoy, no matter how powerful their martial arts are, it would be extremely difficult to defeat an elven envoy. Gray and Vath looked at Noah with a strange expression. Not only can an elven envoy command elves to fight, but they can also turn them into elven magic equipment to display unimaginable fighting strength. They can even use elven magic through the contract with elves. With so many advantages, how can an ordinary person win? You don't even know this. Then how can you be sure that I'm not an elven envoy? Noah asked curiously. Perhaps I just haven't commanded elves to fight. Haven't you thought of this possibility? You're an elven envoy. Gray and Vath looked at Noah with a strange expression. After a while, her expression was full of ridicule. Only a pure young girl can communicate with elves from the elemental world and form a contract with them. Are you not a man? Suddenly, Noah's whole body froze there. Only a pure young girl can form a contract with an elven envoy. What kind of gender discrimination was this? Looking at Gray and Vath's increasingly mocking expression, Noah's face twitched fiercely, and he said stubbornly. Who said that only a pure young girl can form a contract with an elven envoy? There are exceptions to everything, aren't there? Indeed, there was a male elven envoy in history. Gray and Vath couldn't help but laugh out loud. However, not to mention what that person did, there was only one male elven envoy in history. How could there be another one so easily? You also said that an ordinary person can't defeat an elven envoy. In the end, didn't I still defeat you? Noah pursed his lips. Perhaps I also have the talent of an elven envoy. You unexpectedly have a side that doesn't admit defeat. Gray and Vath pushed up the glasses on her face. Never mind. After saying that, Gray and Vath directly came in front of Noah, extended one hand, and tightly grasped Noah's wrist. Before Noah could figure out what Gray and Vath were doing, he felt a pure energy suddenly flowing from Gray and Vath's body, entering his body, and circulating around Noah's body. Whang! At this moment, the dark and hollow mana source in Noah's body trembled, and his suction force erupted out of nowhere, wrapping around a strand of pure energy that flowed into Noah's body, and tyrannically pulling it into the mana source. At this moment, Gray and Vath let go of Noah's hand, and nodded as expected. I have already checked. You don't have the constitution of a witch G that can communicate with elves. You can't be an elven envoy. Really? Noah's eyes flashed, and he suddenly smiled. Why don't you check again? Gray and Vath held Noah's hand indifferently, and poured a strand of pure energy into Noah's body. Suddenly, Gray and Vath froze on the spot, and exclaimed in surprise. How is that possible? Chapter 936. Divine Might. It was a kind of energy that elven envoys needed to consume when using elven devices and elven magic. When Gray and Vath turned the pitch-black elves into their weapons, they drew out the power of the weapon called elven device. They were able to produce energy similar to the phosphorescent energy hovering around Noah. This was the power called divine might. Noah's guess was correct. Just like magicians needed to consume magic power when using magic, elven envoys also needed to consume energy called divine might when using elves in this world. Naturally, without divine might, they wouldn't be able to use elves and become elven envoys. When Gray and Vath checked Noah's body, because Noah didn't have divine might, they couldn't find any talent to become an elven envoys. However, that didn't mean that Noah didn't have the talent to become an elven envoys. It was just that Noah didn't have divine might and couldn't become an elven envoys. But just now, when Gray and Vath poured the energy called divine might into Noah's body to check whether Noah had the talent to become an elven envoys, Noah's mana source absorbed traces of divine might from Gray and Vath. It must be known that Noah's mana source was able to absorb and memorize all kinds of energy that were different from magic power that entered his body and had the ability to transform them into this kind of energy. In other words, in that instant, Noah had the ability to transform the source of mana into the source of divine might. Under such circumstances, Noah had already guessed that using elves required some kind of energy similar to magic power and divine might. When Gray and Vath said that he didn't have the talent to become an elven envoys, he immediately transformed his mana source into divine might. Thus, Gray and Vath, who had once again poured divine might into Noah's body, were really surprised this time. You! Gray and Vath let go of Noah's hand, their eyes becoming uncertain. How could that be? What's wrong? Noah said with a faint smile. Do I really not have the qualifications to become an elf envoy? In fact, Noah had already gotten the answer from Gray and Vath's behavior. The main reason he said that was to return the favor to Gray and Vath for mocking him earlier. However, what Noah didn't expect was that Gray and Vath's reaction was a little different from what he had imagined. Although she was surprised, or even shocked, Gray and Vath looked at him with uncertainty in their eyes and fell into deep thought. If that's the case, it might work. Noah couldn't help but frown at the unexpected reaction of Gray and Vath. What was this Gray Vath doing? Are you surprised that I have the talent to become an elf envoy? Noah asked with a frown. Since there has already been a male elf envoy in history, it shouldn't be a big deal for another one to appear, right? It's best for you to say that after you understand what the only male elf envoy in history did, Gray and Vaz didn't react from their deep thought, and instead replied like a conditioned reflex. There is only one male elf envoy in history. His name is Solomon, and he is also known as the Demon King. He once brought about a destructive disaster on this continent, and can be said to be the most vicious and evil existence. If the fact that you are also a male elf envoy was exposed, would you still be able to say those words so easily? Hearing that, Noah's face sank slightly. At this moment, Noah finally realized what the change in his identity meant. If the only male elf envoy in history was really such an existence, then Noah would very likely be looked at through colored glasses by others, and be arbitrarily treated as the embodiment of disaster like the Demon King Solomon. The existence of a male elf envoy like the Demon King who brought destruction and disaster to the continent in the past, Gray and Vaz said. Now, do you understand how easy it is to be surprised by the fact that you are a male elf envoy? Alright, Noah's furrowed brows slowly relaxed, and he looked at Gray and Vaz. Then what do you plan to do with me? Noah wasn't the Demon King Solomon, and it was impossible for him to bring unimaginable disasters to this world like the Demon King Solomon. It wasn't that Noah couldn't do it, but that Noah didn't want to. However, others might not think so. Since this was a world with an empire as its background, then most likely many people might be overly sensitive, and arbitrarily treat Noah as a threat to this continent. When the time came, in order to eliminate the threat before it sprouted, no one in this world would mind taking action against Noah. Although Noah wasn't afraid, if an unexpected disaster really came to him, he wouldn't be merciful. Even if Gray and Vaz were making things easy for him, it would be the same. However, just as Noah was thinking, Gray and Vaz suddenly asked such a question. How old are you now? Me? Noah tilted his head, but still answered 19 years old this year, almost 20 years old. 19 years old. A smile suddenly appeared on Gray and Vaz's face. Just in time, you barely passed. What do you mean? Noah was confused and said in a bad mood. You want to kill me or cut me, just say it, and I'll take it. Why are you keeping me in suspense? Don't mind it. Grayvath waved her hand and brushed off Noah's question perfunctorily. Then, she said, don't worry. Then, she said, Kid called Noah, do you want to stay here? The sudden suggestion stunned Noah on the spot. Stay here. That's right, Gray and Vaz said with assurance. Although I don't know where you came from the looks of it, if you stay here, you don't have a proper status, right? Noah didn't hide it and directly nodded in acknowledgement. If you stay here, with my status and authority, I can definitely give you a proper status in the Audisia Empire, Gray and Vaz said. In the Audisia Empire, although the elven messengers can enjoy all kinds of privileges, because the elven messengers have great power, if they harbor evil intentions and intend to rebel, they will pose a great threat to the Empire. If you, as an elven messenger, don't even have a proper status, you will definitely be seen as a threat and be arrested by the Empire's elven knights. Oh. Noah smiled, but there wasn't much of a smile in his eyes. Do you think I will obediently listen to your orders because of this? How can that be? Gray and Vaz spread out her hands. You were able to beat me without using an elf, and without even having a contract with an elf. If you were to sign a contract with an elf, and obtain the power of an elf, then even if the Empire's 12 most outstanding elven envoys, the 12 knights, were all dispatched, it is still unknown whether they could do anything to you. Gray and Vaz looked straight at Noah and revealed a devilish smile. But if the Empire keeps sending people to harass you, even if you come here with a plan, it will be difficult for you to take a single step. Why don't you accept my suggestion? Noah looked straight at Gray and Vaz and said calmly. What's the purpose? It was obvious that Gray and Vaz wanted to keep Noah here, and there must be a reason. Otherwise, Gray and Vaz wouldn't suddenly keep a man in an academy full of pure and innocent girls. It's not really a purpose. Gray and Vaz might have felt that there was no benefit in hiding it from Noah, so they just said it like that. I just want you to do me a favor. A favor? Noah asked. What favor? Don't worry. With your ability, as long as you obtain an elf, it shouldn't be difficult. Gray and Vaz smiled sweetly. As for what favor it is, you will know very soon. Anyway, it's not something harmful to you. Noah didn't ask any more questions. He just looked at Gray and Vaz, trying to find something from her eyes. Gray and Vaz didn't avoid Noah's gaze. Although there was a strange and unpredictable look in her eyes, there was no malice. I finally understand why you have the title, witch. Noah smacked his lips. I understand. Let's each take what we need. Gray and Vaz smiled. It wasn't a flirtatious smile like before. Instead, it was a smile that came from the bottom of her heart. Chapter 937. In this world, apart from the world dominated by humans, there was another world. People called it the elemental spirit world. As the name suggested, it was a world inhabited by strange creatures called elves. In this elemental spirit world, there were all kinds of elves with strange abilities, and they were closely related to the world inhabited by humans. The only ones who could communicate with the elves with strange abilities were those pure and innocent girls among humans. These girls who could communicate with the elves were called witch concubines. Among them, there were also witch concubines who strengthened their bloodlines, talents, and other characteristics through generations of marriage, thus forming contracts with the elves and using the power of the elves. People called them elven envoys. As elven envoys, witch concubines could use the contracts they formed with the elves to summon the elves that lived in the elemental spirit world to their side. Through using the elves, they could achieve their goals in battle or other aspects of life. When the elves that lived in the elemental spirit world were summoned to this world, they generally had two forms. One was their original form. That was a form that had no quality and no fixed appearance. It was only the core of divine power, and was called the core of divine power. When the elves were summoned in this form, it could not be said that the elves were summoned, but a part of the elves' abilities were summoned. Thus, elven envoys would use this form of summoning when using elven magic, using it as a reservoir of divine power to allow the elven magic to have the true power it should have. It was also for this reason that elven envoys who formed contracts with elves of a certain attribute could only use elven magic of the same attribute as their contracted elven magic. If they lost their contract with elven magic, even if they could continue using elven magic, the power would be pitifully weak. As for the other form, it was a pure form that directly summoned a part of the elves themselves. The so-called pure form was the original form of the elves. When the elves that had the appearance of a cat were summoned in their pure form, they would have the appearance of a cat. When the elves that had the appearance of a dog were summoned in their pure form, they would have the appearance of a dog. When the elves were summoned in their pure form, they were truly summoned. It was just that summoning a pure form elf required an enormous amount of divine power, and it was also very difficult to control. However, compared to simply summoning a pure form elf, it was undoubtedly much more powerful when used to perform elf magic. Using the purified form of the elves to a higher level, transforming a part of the purified form of the summoned elves into the most suitable weapon for oneself, and combining the powerful elven power with the elven user's own power, this was the realm where the elven user's power could reach the pinnacle. Elven device. Only a fully mature elf user could use the powerful equipment transformed from elves. It was precisely because one could obtain so much power after contracting with a fairy that the status of a fairy envoy was the most important no matter where one went. After forming a contract with an elf, one can not only use the elven magic of that element, but also command the elf, and even turn the elf into a powerful weapon. With so many advantages, No wonder Grey Vass said that it would be difficult for an ordinary person to defeat an elf user, no matter how powerful they are. In the dean's office, Noah flipped through a thick book with a helpless expression. Moreover, other than forming a contract with an elf user and being summoned to this world, the elves can also come to this world through the gates of the elemental elves world that exist all over this world. No wonder I met so many elves in the forest. The gates of the elemental elves world would sometimes open temporarily in a random place in this world. Sometimes, humans would use certain techniques and methods to stabilize the unstable entrances and form the gates. The reason why the Elven Academy was located here was because there was a gate that led to the elemental elves world. The forest around the Elven Academy was the residence of the elves who came here through the gates to the elemental elves world. Therefore, it was also known as the Elven Forest. So, this academy is not located deep in the mountains and forests because it's shady. Instead, it's built here because there's a gate that leads to the world of elemental elves. The elves in the forest are elves who accidentally entered this world through those gates. Noah was speechless. Well, this is basic knowledge that everyone in the world knows. I actually treated it as something that cannot be seen by others. No wonder that witch found me suspicious. Closing the book in his hand, Noah rubbed his sleepy eyes. Last night, after making the decision to stay here, Gray and Vath gave this place to Noah and let Noah stay here for the night. They would make other arrangements in the morning. However, Noah didn't rest. Instead, he asked Gray Vath for a book that could briefly explain the background of this world and had a preliminary understanding of the situation of this world. This is much more interesting than I thought, Noah smiled slightly. Let me look forward to it. Leaving this thought, Noah looked at the sky outside. At this time, the sky outside was already bright. From the window, Noah could see many girls in pure white uniforms walking in the direction of the school building while chatting and laughing. It was obviously time for class. Gray and Vath said that they will officially arrange for me to transfer to this academy today and let me have a proper identity. Before that, I will take a nap. After making up his mind, Noah was about to close his eyes and take a nap when someone knocked on the door of the dean's office. Then, a rather solemn and stern voice sounded from outside the door. The commander of the Wind King Knights, Alice Faringerdo, requests to see you. Dean, are you in? Noah, who was about to close his eyes, suddenly opened his eyes. Wind King Knights. It was a knight order formed by the outstanding students in the academy to protect the Elven Academy. It was like the student union and the discipline committee in ordinary schools. However, because this Wind King Knights was made up of outstanding Elven users, their power was much greater than the student union and the discipline committee in ordinary schools. They even had the responsibility of banning students and people who caused problems. Last night, those people who rushed over after hearing the fighting between Noah and Gray and Vath were the students of the Wind King Knights. Just as Noah recalled this information, the door was directly opened with a "Kacha" sound. A girl appeared outside the door. She was a girl who was about 16 years old. The girl had brown eyes and long sky-blue hair. Her waist-length hair was tied into a ponytail and hung behind her. She was wearing a pure white uniform with some black lines. A bow-tie-style forging belt was pinned on her chest as an ornament. She also wore a uniform with long stockings and a pleated skirt. That was the uniform of the Elven Academy. The difference was that the young lady who called herself Alice, apart from wearing a uniform, was also wearing a light armor with only half of her breastplate. There was even a sheathed knight's sword by her waist. That was the armor that only the members of the Wind King Knights would wear. The girl named Alice walked in with a straight face. She couldn't wait to speak before she saw what was going on behind the door. Dean, last night, there seemed to be a fight in the academy. Regarding this matter, I want to discuss, with you. As she spoke, Alice's voice gradually weakened, as if she was stuck. She spoke more and more slowly, and in the end, she simply stopped. Then, the girl named Alice froze at the door. She widened her eyes and looked at Noah, who was sitting in front of the desk. She completely lost her reaction. Seeing this, Noah had a bad premonition. Man. As expected, the girl named Alice's pretty face flushed red, and then she grabbed the hilt of the sword at her waist. Intruder. No. Noah hurriedly said. I'm not. Unfortunately, before Noah could finish his words, Alice had already pulled out the knight's sword at her waist and flew out. Chapter 938. Ha! With such a shout, the girl named Alice raised her sharp knight's sword and spun up. In an instant, she was in front of Noah, and with a leap, she jumped onto the desk. Seeing Alice charging over, Noah had already expected this outcome. Without any hesitation, he bounced off his seat and shot up. Almost at the same time, the sharp knight's sword sliced through the air and echoed in the office. Alice's knight's sword sliced through the spot where Noah had just been and landed in the air. At the same time, Noah, who had descended from the sky, lightly tapped the back of his chair with the tip of his toes. His body actually floated out and flew past Alice, who had leaped onto the office desk, and landed in the middle of the vast office. He then turned around and looked at Alice. Wait. I'm not an intruder. Tisk, as expected, to be able to invade this school, their skills are definitely not ordinary, right? Noah's words and Alice's words almost overlapped and rang out. So much so that Alice didn't hear Noah's words clearly, or rather, she didn't even want to hear Noah's words. She suddenly turned around and cast a stern gaze on Noah. However, don't even think about escaping from the hands of my Wind King Knights. After saying that, Alice's delicate body bounced and rushed towards Noah's direction. The sharp knight's sword in her hand glowed with a cold light as she pointed it at Noah's shoulder. It seemed that even though Alice mistook Noah as an intruder, she didn't intend to kill Noah. However, this way, Noah couldn't be too harsh on Alice. At that moment, Noah could only lightly tap the ground with the tip of his foot once again and retreat explosively. Alice immediately closed in and waved the long sword in her hand, turning it into streaks of sword light that flashed towards Noah's direction. Hey! Wait! Noah hurriedly explained while dodging the streaks of sword light with his nimble body, causing the knight's sword to hit empty air. I'm not an intruder. I'm also a student here. However, this sentence caused Alice's sword to move even faster, continuously slashing towards Noah. You can even tell such a stupid lie. You'd better wake up. Noah's explanation did indeed sound like a stupid lie. After all, everyone knew that the Elven Academy specialized in cultivating elven envoys. And only the pure witch G could be an elven envoy. How could a man like Noah be a student of the Elven Academy? This was Alice's thought, and it was definitely the thought of everyone who heard Noah's words. Noah could only repeatedly dodge Alice's slashes, and it was as if he was dancing an extremely intense dance with Alice. His footsteps were strong, powerful, and agile as he dodged from time to time, retreated from time to time, passed by Alice from time to time, and swapped positions from time to time. In the vast office, he vividly displayed his movement technique. I'm really a student here. Noah gradually began to feel impatient. If you continue to attack me, I'm going to retaliate. Retaliate? Why don't you try fighting back? Alice seemed to be enraged, and the slashes in her hands became more ferocious. Don't keep dodging. Be a good boy and be turned into sashimi. Why sashimi? Noah couldn't help but complain, but his impatience had reached its limit. Without any hesitation, he dodged Alice's slashes. Noah's gaze swept the surroundings, and then stopped at a ribbon that was fastened to a hanging curtain by the wall. Duh! In the next instant, Noah stomped heavily on the ground, and his body shot out. In an instant, his body flashed to the side of the wall. He extended his hand and pulling the ribbon off. "Wake up!" The girl named Alice didn't give up and rushed forward. Looking at the approaching Alice, Noah's hand that held the ribbon tightened. When Alice charged to a distance of only 1 meter away from Noah, Noah finally made a move. "Who?" Suddenly, the ribbon in Noah's hand was swung down by Noah. Like a whip, it carried a whistling sound as it fell on Alice's sword-wielding hand. Paw! Accompanied by the crisp sound of a whip, the ribbon directly wrapped around Alice's hand and tied it tightly. "What?" Alice was taken aback. However, before Alice could react, Noah suddenly turned around, and with his LV, for dexterity and dexterity that were as high as grade A, he circled around Alice at an astonishing speed, like a gust of wind. As a result, Alice's entire body was tightly bound by the ribbons, and she was directly tied up. "Ah!" With a cute scream full of girlish flavor, Alice only felt her whole body tighten. Her delicate body was tightly bound, and she fell to the ground. Clang! This was the sound of the knight's sword in Alice's hand falling to the ground. Bang! This was the sound of Alice falling to the ground. Ugh! This was the painful cry that Alice deliberately suppressed. In less than 10 seconds, the commander of the Wind King Knights was tied up like a dumpling and fell to the ground. He was forcibly subdued. Clap, clap. Noah clapped his hands and looked at Alice condescendingly. "I warned you. You." Alice raised her head and stared at Noah hatefully. "Despicable and shameless person. You actually used such a despicable method." "How is this a despicable method?" Noah had an innocent look. "Since ancient times, the best way to subdue a thug is to tie them up, right?" You said I'm a thug." Alice's cute eyes opened wider and wider, looking at Noah with eyes full of anger. "I'm the noble commander of the Wind King Knights." "You actually said I'm a thug." Indiscriminately attacking innocent people and casually using weapons, in the mouth of ordinary people, they are called thugs. Noah shrugged. "Who told you not to listen to my explanation? Just stay here obediently." After saying that, Noah stretched out his hand and picked up Alice, who fell to the ground. Alice's entire face actually turned red with a bang, in an instant. I was hugged by a man, looking at Alice, whose head had become dizzy and her face had become bright red, as if she would faint at any moment. Noah suddenly woke up from his stupor. Because only pure young girls could communicate with elves, in order to maintain the purity of their bodies and minds, nurtured witch concubines would generally be in an environment that was completely isolated from men from a young age and receive all kinds of elite education that elven users needed. Therefore, the active elven users were almost all super greenhouse flowers who were not used to contact the opposite sex. In other words, she was extremely pure, so pure that it made people feel pity for her. Being hugged by a man in such a situation. To these pure witch concubines, it was no different from having their bodies taken away. Thinking of this, Noah's face stiffened. Let go of me." Alice finally regained her senses. Her face was red as she struggled with all her might. My body belongs to my future husband. I can't be tainted by you." Wait. Who would taint you? Under Alice's struggle, even Noah became a little wretched. "Don't you dare move. I just want to move you to the seat. Let go of me. Let go of me." Alice struggled with all her might as if her life depended on it. She completely ignored Noah's words, and her pretty face was so red that it was about to explode. Under Alice's struggle, Noah also felt all kinds of unfavorable situations. The main thing was that Alice's figure was surprisingly good. With this struggle, he touched almost everything that he shouldn't touch. If you continue to struggle, it will be really bad. Let go of me. You big pervert. At this moment, a cold voice came from outside the door. You haven't even officially entered the school, and you're already planning to lay your hands on the leader of the knights. Looks like I've underestimated your endurance. Hearing the voice, Noah and Alice turned their heads at the same time and looked at the door. Then, they exclaimed at the same time. Grey vase, Dean. Chapter 939. I don't agree. About 15 minutes later, in the dean's office of the Alicia Elven Academy, Alice slammed her hands on the desk in front of Grey and Vaz and yelled at Grey and Vaz agitatedly. I will never agree to a man studying in the Alicia Elven Academy. Alice glared sternly at Noah, who was standing casually at the side. Her pretty face was filled with resistance. Just a moment ago, Grey and Vaz told Alice that Noah was going to transfer to this academy. Greyvath had just left to inform the others of this matter. Grey and Vaz also explained that Noah was a male elven envoy. Alice was naturally shocked that Noah, a male, was actually an elven envoy. Perhaps it was because of Noah or because of her resistance to men, but compared to Noah being a male elven envoy, Alice was more concerned about the fact that Noah was going to transfer to this academy. That was why this scene happened. Grey and Vaz seemed to have expected Alice's reaction and spoke calmly. Leader, I know how you feel, but this is something that I, as the dean of this academy, have decided. Are you going to go against it? But, Dean, this person is a man. Alice didn't seem to accept it at all. Her expression was starting to make people think of her as a stubborn person. This is an all-girls school. How can we let a man transfer in? Alice's words weren't unreasonable. In an academy filled with pure and innocent young girls, it was not a good thing for a healthy man to suddenly transfer into the academy. No matter how one looked at it, it was not a good thing. Not to mention, this man was the second male elven envoy in history. Such a person would only bring chaos to the academy. Naturally, the Wind King Knights who had to maintain order in the Alicia Elven Academy wouldn't agree with Noah's existence. As the leader of the Wind King Knights, for the sake of the Academy's order, Alice's resistance wasn't unreasonable. However, in the face of Alice's words, Greyvath calmly replied, "That's right. When did the Alicia Elven Academy become an all-girls school? Why didn't I know about it?" Alice was stunned. The Alicia Elven Academy is an academy that specializes in nurturing elven envoys. It's not an all-girls school, leader of the knights, Grey and Vaz said concisely. The reason why there are only females here is because only pure girls can become elven envoys. The academy didn't stipulate that males can't study, right? Alice was speechless. As the dean of this academy, my purpose is to nurture more and more outstanding elven envoys for the Empire. And this academy will always welcome anyone who has the talent to become an outstanding elven envoy. Grey and Vaz. As for whether the other party is male or not, I don't care. SSS. What about the test? Regardless of whether he's an elven envoy or not, he has to pass the test to enter the academy, right? You don't have to worry about that. Greyvath glanced at Noah, who seemed a little bored at the side. I personally tested this fellow's ability. I can guarantee that there won't be any problems. But... Alice seemed to want to say something. Alice Faringelto. Grey and Vaz interrupted Alice with an extremely calm but unimaginably forceful tone. This is something I've decided on. Do you want to go against it? No. A look of struggle appeared on Alice's face, but in the end, she still obediently swallowed all the opinions in her heart. She took a step back and glared at Noah hatefully. However, I will never acknowledge him. If he does anything that harms the order and reputation of the Alicia Elven Academy, I will take action against him as the leader of the Wind King Knights. Of course, this is your duty and your right. Gray and Vaz nodded without a trace of surprise. Then, this matter is decided. Are you done? Noah, who had been watching quietly from the side, finally spoke. Then, what should I do next? Don't worry, I've already made arrangements. Gray and Vaz crossed her arms and looked at Noah. Originally, I intended to put you in one of the classes, but after thinking about it, with your age, you're almost ready to graduate in this academy. In addition to some other problems, I've decided to arrange for you to be by my side for the time being. Arrange for me to be by your side. Noah was slightly taken aback. How? How can this be? Alice's reaction was even more intense. How can a man be by the side of the dean? This isn't a big deal, right? Gray and Vaz spoke as if they weren't shocked to death. Arranging for a disciple to be by your side to teach. Isn't that the responsibility of every teacher? Disciple. Noah was stunned. Disciple. Alice's mouth was slightly agape as she stammered, disciple. Could it be? It's probably what you're thinking. Gray and Vaz smiled sweetly. I've decided to personally teach this rare male elven envoy. Alice gasped and stood there in a daze. She didn't react for a long time. As for Noah, he was completely confused. Just what was this demoness thinking? Half an hour later, under the lead of Gray and Vaz, Noah walked out of the dean's office. Compared to humans, the architectural design of the Elven Academy prioritized the comfort of the elves. Therefore, if Noah, who had just arrived here not long ago, were to walk around alone, he might have to take a long detour just like yesterday to find the right path. Walking along the corridors that resembled a shrine, Noah looked around. Is that a male elven envoy? A male elven envoy like that demon King Solomon. His eyes look so fierce, he looks so evil too. I wonder if he'll do anything to us. That's right. A group of girls in pure white uniforms gathered together and whispered to each other as they cast fearful and curious gazes in Noah's direction.